Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mormon Stories Podcast. I'm your host, John DeLynn. It's March 5th, 2026, and today we're answering the question, why would a recent BYU graduate resign from the Mormon Church immediately after graduating from BYU? That's today's topic, and joining us in studio today is Ryan Huey, one of our most recent BYU graduates. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going, John?
Thanks for coming on Mormon Stories Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I don't always get an email saying, John, I just graduated, diploma in hand. Can I come on Mormon Stories and tell you why I'm leaving the church? I don't get that email every day.
Yep.
Anything you want to say as kind of a disclaimer before we dive into your story?
Oh man, I don't even know. It's crazy that I'm on this podcast. I'm excited to share my story because it's so fresh. I think a lot of people leave the church and it takes them several years or maybe never to come out this openly about their exodus away from the church. For me, I've been at this, it was like a year ago that I decided to leave. So hopping on this podcast is really fresh for me, but I'm happy to talk about my process, why everything moved so quickly, and why I decided to make that decision to actually formally remove my records from the church.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Let's dive in. So were your parents born in the covenant, temple married, all that good stuff?
They were. They actually met in the MTC.
Oh.
They were both teachers there. They served in Japan, both of them. Didn't meet on their missions, met as teachers in the MTC. And
after they finished their missions.
After they finished their missions,
okay. Yep. That's pretty Mormon to meet as MTC teachers and then fall in love and get married.
Yep.
Do you know what temple they got married in? I'm assuming they got married in a temple.
Salt Lake.
Okay. And where are they from, just city-wise, your parents?
My mom grew up in Barstow, California.
Okay, I've been there. There's a...
Really? Barstow?
Yeah.
She always jokes that...
there's a really good Del Taco in Barstow.
Yeah, wait, that's crazy. She loves Del Taco. Wow.
Anyway.
And my dad grew up in Orem, Utah.
Okay, Orem. Was his dad a BYU professor or anything like that? Or
nope, not a BYU professor. His mom was a Ludlow, so pretty prominent Mormon figure. And then his dad was a convert to the church. So no like family history in the church.
Okay. All right. So they get married in the temple. They both are returned missionaries speaking Japanese. Your mom would have been a missionary before young women were really encouraged very actively to serve missions. So she must have been extra devout, I'm guessing.
Very. Yeah. My mom is extremely devout. That's one of the beautiful things about her still.
Oh, cool.
Very devout member of the church. She's one of the most faithful women I've ever met. Honestly, I really admire her for it. We have, difference of perspective, but she has learned to really respect my perspective, and I've learned to really respect hers, and we have an incredible relationship.
Did you see the recent father-daughter Mormon Stories episode I had just a couple weeks ago?
The two of them together on the podcast. Yeah. I did. I listened to the whole thing.
You know where I'm going with this? We need to have you and your mom on Mormon Stories.
Ooh, that one will never happen.
Oh, bummer. Okay. All right.
I'll pitch it to her.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't even told her that I'm on the podcast today.
Well, that's one way to handle it.
Yeah.
That would be a massive surprise, but that's cool. I get it. Okay. So super devout parents when they got married. And how many children did your parents have total?
6 kids total.
Whoa.
Yep. Me plus 5 siblings. I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
3 older, 2 younger.
Okay. So, and where generally were you raised?
I grew up Missouri, lived there for 10 years. Right before my senior year of high school, moved to Colorado, finished high school there. Went to a semester at BYU, Idaho, before I went on my mission to Texas. Then went to BYU, did the full 4 years at BYU, plus some change.
We'll be coming back to all that.
We will. Yeah, I wrote that in my outline.
Yeah. So what was your Mormon upbringing like? Was it pretty traditional? Was it untraditional?
Yep. Very traditional. I grew up in a small town. I was definitely a minority as a member of the church.
Is it a branch or a ward?
It was a ward, and then it split into I think 2 branches, or it might have just split into 2 wards.
Okay.
But the church building was a good 30 minutes away from my home. Every morning I'd wake up and drive 30 minutes to seminary and then 30 minutes back to go to school. So it was about an hour round trip drive every morning before school started. In order to do early morning seminary. Very devout upbringing. Family scripture study every morning. So we'd wake up, family scripture study, and then I would go to seminary, and then I would go to school. And that we never missed a day.
Whoa.
Never. My mom is very committed. I truly admire her for it. I mean, she did an excellent job raising me. I'm amazing. No, but she's really great.
So, family home evening, all that.
Yep. Family home evening every week. Typical, we'd have like a family home evening board, and we'd rotate responsibilities. So like there's an agenda for family home evening.
Who leads a song?
Exactly.
Who has the lesson?
Exactly.
Who has the treats?
Yep. Very traditional Mormon upbringing, family home evening.
What were the types of rules or moral standards, like in terms of like R movies or PG-13 movies, or like swearing or Coke or, whatever?
Yeah. So PG-13 movies, once you were 13, you could watch them, but it was still case by case scenario. So
movie by movie.
Right. So there's like a hierarchy. Violence was more acceptable than sexual content in movies. I think that might be a typical Mormon trend. And then rated R movies were never watch a rated R movie. And when I left the house, I started to watch some rated R movies, but I would vet them too. I'd be like, if there's sexual content, I don't want to watch that. I was very careful even after I left my home.
And so anything else about your parents or your siblings before we kind of get into your middle school and high school years as far as it relates to the church? Or was it all
loving family?
Were you pretty happy as a Mormon kid?
Extremely. Yeah. My story is a little bit unique because honestly, it was a very idyllic situation growing up. Loving mom and dad, loving siblings. And even now that I've left the faith and I've opened up to my family about it, they've been extremely accepting and supportive. I've dealt with different challenges leaving the church, but I'm really grateful I haven't dealt with any sort of disownment or even ostracization. I've stayed in really good terms with the people, family, and friends in my life.
Yeah, we'll get to all that.
There are always things, and we'll talk about that.
So, were you pretty proud to be a Mormon in a non-Mormon state, in a non-Mormon town? Not just a non-Mormon state or non-Mormon town. Missouri's the state that issued an exterminating order against Mormons.
Yeah.
In the 1830s. Were you proud to be a Mormon in your non-Mormon town state?
Yes. Very proud. It was my whole identity. There's a lot of church history in Missouri, but not really where I grew up. So it wasn't extremely known about, talked about. But my older brother was really well known in high school, and his whole persona was that he was Mormon. That was like his personality. He made it a really fun thing. There weren't very many Mormons, and so people would like make fun jokes about it, but it was all in good fun. He made a really stupid, fun little video that went like not viral, but everyone in the high school saw it. It was called Mormon Boy Swag. And it was a really fun attribute and sort of characteristic that I internalized. It became my identity. I was the Mormon kid. I never swore. I never drank. People, I think, really admired me for the lifestyle I lived, and that fed the confirmation for me, the confirmation bias that what I was doing was really good. And anyway,
did you feel? This might hurt the feelings of some believing Mormons. Did you feel kind of superior to the non-Mormons around you, or not?
I am superior. Just kidding. Did I feel superior? That's a hard one to admit, but I do think there's a superiority complex found within Mormonism. and I wasn't, impervious to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Texas in a Baptist town, and my Mormon identity was like my shield. It's like my superhero uniform.
So true. Yeah. The church does such a good job of reinforcing that. You're a peculiar people.
Yeah.
Right. You're different from the world. And so you see yourself as like set apart, but it does come with it a form of superiority. Yeah. I'm chosen by God.
But also, I think we both had a similar experience in that we loved it. It was probably really good for us. Like, I didn't deal with unwanted pregnancies or STIs or alcoholism or going to jail or whatever worst case scenario, partying in high school kind of thing.
Yep.
I think that was probably good for me. Right?
I agree. Yeah. I'm 26 now and I don't have liver issues. I feel really blessed that I grew up in a faith like Mormonism.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a very positive experience for you.
Yep.
So in terms of middle school, high school, so often on Mormon stories, it's sort of the law of chastity, shame spiral. People think that I'm obsessed with that topic.
It just comes up a lot.
I think that's a misreading. I think the church is obsessed with that topic.
Yeah.
And it comes up in every episode, but it's in your outline. So this isn't me. This is me following your outline. So talk about, as they call it in Utah, maturation. And your battles with shame and law of chastity and bishop interviews and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Unless there's something else you want to talk about first.
No, it's fine. This is the one category where I will say Mormonism maybe wasn't super great for me growing up. I think a lot of heterosexual men in the church deal with this battle of guilt and shame surrounding their sexuality, surrounding their sexual outlets. And I definitely faced that growing up. I was taught things like masturbation is second only to murder in severity as a sin. And
people don't believe it when I say that that's what others are taught.
Right.
Yeah. But that's what you were taught.
Yeah. Some people in the church aren't taught that extreme, doctrine, but it's written down in church, like publications. It's not like it came from nowhere. I think the For Strength of Youth, the old one, outlined.
Well, it's in the Book of Mormon.
That too.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it comes from the Book of Mormon.
Yeah. And so there are buffet Mormons that will kind of pick and choose which teachings they agree with and disagree with. That wasn't me. I was taught that being a buffet Mormon was wrong, that it was all or nothing. This is the true church. You can't pick and choose which teachings from the true church you abide by. And so what's written down is law, it's canon. So I grew up with this really strict, intense view on sexuality. And my sexual outlets were frowned upon kind of to the extreme.
So how did that manifest itself in your life in terms of your interactions with the church and then with your own mental health and well-being?
Sure. So when I was, it's vulnerable, but I think vulnerability is good. So I'm going to share. This is hard for me, but I will share it. Growing up, I felt that guilt and shame as a young teenager, and I fully believed in Mormonism, and I fully believed that in order to be reconciled with God, I needed to confess my sins to somebody who held authority. And so from about age 14, I started confessing to my bishop regularly. I was so embarrassed the first time that I confessed to my bishop. The bishop said, "You shouldn't take the sacrament on Sunday." But I was passing the sacrament every Sunday, and I was this poster child Mormon kid. It was my whole identity growing up, being one of the only Mormons in my high school. And so I couldn't pass the sacrament that Sunday, and I couldn't take it. And I was so embarrassed that I went to the bathroom and just acted like I had to go to the bathroom for a really long time. And whoops, I accidentally missed the sacrament. And I think I actually it put more attention on me than if I had just said, oh, I'm not doing it today. But it goes to show the level of embarrassment I felt. And this was a public sort of showcase of my unworthiness.
And just to explain to non-Mormons what it means to not take the sacrament, we explain why, like, slow down and take us through how that's embarrassing and how anyone would know you're not taking the sacrament on any given Sunday.
Right. So the sacrament is an ordinance that happens every Sunday. It's a covenant or a promise you make with God, and you're renewing that promise every time you partake of the sacrament. It's bread and water. It used to be bread and wine. It resembles the body of Christ and the blood of Christ, and you take that upon yourself. It's really a beautiful symbol. I appreciate symbolism and metaphors, and that's one that is really tender. The thing is, it's passed around publicly. So you're sitting down in your pew or your chair, and the tray gets passed to you, and you take the blood and the body of Christ in front of everyone.
Take the bread and take the water. And you're kind of passing these trays down a pew, and you're sitting there with your family.
Yeah.
But there's people in front of you and behind you.
Totally.
And they can just kind of side eye and see who's taking it and who doesn't take it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And in Doctrine and Covenants, we're taught that if you partake of the bread or the water unworthily, you're drinking damnation to your soul.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's really intense teaching. And what does it mean to be worthy or unworthy? Well, that's really up to the bishop, the presiding authority. And so when I confessed to the bishop for the first time, he said, you're not worthy to partake of the sacrament. We need to get your worthiness up, basically, and then you'll be able to take it. And so I'm unworthy in the sight of God, and everybody can see it. And it's a little bit bigger for me because I have this responsibility to not just partake of the sacrament, but also to pass it, because I hold priesthood authority there too. So pass the sacrament to everyone. It's what I do every Sunday. So people are going to notice if I'm all of a sudden not passing the sacrament. Why is Ryan not passing the sacrament?
Because it's not like in a branch or a ward. There's a overabundance of young men to prepare and bless and pass the sacrament. So when one isn't doing it, it's pretty glaring, right?
Yeah. And it became, there would be regular moments where people would come up to me and say, hey, we need help with passing the sacrament. And I would have to say, oh, I can't do it this week.
Ugh.
And you don't say why, but everyone goes, well, why can't you do it this week? And so you sort of internalize everyone else's hypothetical thoughts. Yeah. It just makes you feel bad.
I'm just processing this now but from my mental health training, I think the stat is like 90% of men and 50% of women, masturbate or whatever.
Yeah.
So like almost no one should have been passing or blessing the sacrament.
Yeah, but I don't know that as a kid. So I think there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Everyone else is blessing and passing the sacrament. No one else is dealing with worthiness issues. And what you just described, those statistics are not outlined to me. What's outlined to me is masturbation is second only to murder, and you are unworthy in the sight of God if you do it. You have to be reconciled with priesthood authority. And so I just internalize all of that. I'm dirty. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I have an abnormal sex drive. Yeah. All these thoughts.
And what's super hard about this is the Mormon church culture rewards lying, because all that means is the bishop and his counselors and all those other boys, if they weren't confessing, they were probably lying.
Right.
And then the honest person gets punished while the liars get rewarded. It's not a healthy system.
It's not a healthy system. And you can sort of go, well, no one can lie to God. So like you may be lying to priesthood authority, but like God can still see your sins. So you're still kind of out of deficit there. But you're right. The social consequences are removed from those who are able to keep quiet and just not confess regularly.
Yeah. Okay. So you hid in the bathroom, but eventually I'm guessing you weren't able to fully stop, because few can once that genie's out of the bottle. So did you stop confessing at some point, or?
I was encouraged to confess by people who cared about me, and they thought it was what was going to be good for me. But I was deeply embarrassed. So I didn't fully confess my first time. And even without my full confession, I was still deemed unworthy. But like I held back details because those are personal things.
Yeah,
I don't want to share those to
Yeah.
this priesthood authority figure. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I sort of continued that trend through my teenage years of confessing, but not fully.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I should have not taken the sacrament most weeks. Right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't fully honest.
Yeah.
You're right. Honesty was decentivized.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really does. I mean, it's just like a yoke of shame and self-loathing and even self-deception or other deception.
Right.
Where there's like this Donny Osmond veneer, but this dark battle raging within a young Mormon boy like you.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. Yeah, you're expected to put on this really righteous priesthood holding facade. And internally I'm feeling unworthy.
Yeah.
It creates some intense cognitive dissonance and just self-worth issues.
Let me really quickly, like I could hear a Mormon apologist today say, yes, it's a suboptimal system, but what's worse is having a bunch of teenage boys and girls having unrestrained sex. And so it's the best we have for restraining that behavior, and the cost is worth the benefit. I want you to speak to that at some point.
Okay.
Whether that's now or later, but I guess maybe let's finish the thread. So how did high school continue for you and your Mormon devoutness? How did it continue?
Yeah. So through it all, again, I attributed my identity to Mormonism. So it was my whole thing. I started saving for my mission when I was 12 years old. I was working at restaurants.
At 12?
At 12.
Were you busing or what were you doing?
Yes. Oh, well, excuse me. At 12 years old, I was teaching piano. My mom is very musical. She was a piano performance major at BYU.
Oh, wow.
She taught me and all my siblings the piano. And she would take on students, but she only had so much time. And so the more beginning piano students that wanted to take from her, she would pass on to her kids. So that gave us this cool opportunity as a 12, 13-year-old boy to make a little bit of money. We would charge like nothing. I think I charged like $5 per piano lesson. But as a 12-year-old kid, that was really fun.
That's awesome.
And as soon as I started making money, even at 12 years old, I was putting that away towards a mission. I was always thinking about going on a mission. And I had all that money saved by the time I was ready to go, which was, I was ready to go once I graduated high school. I had plans to go immediately. So not go to school, just go on the mission and then go to school after that. But this was a big deal to me. From age 12 to 18, I've been thinking about going on this mission.
I hope they call me on a mission, right?
Yeah.
Is that the song?
When I have grown a foot or two. Yeah. So it's a big deal and you only get one shot at it. I grew up hearing these stories about these really valiant elders and they gave their all for 2 years and they were fully bought in. And so I was taking this very seriously. I wanted to do my mission right. And I knew in the back of my head, there were sins that had not been confessed because I'd been, not talking about them super openly with my priesthood authority. And so I went through the process. I did the mission papers and everything. And then in my final interview with my stake president before I was ready to go on my mission, I said, there are some things that I haven't really shared openly. And I feel like they need to be brought to the table. I made a decision to be honest. And the stake president said, okay, well, these are serious sins, second only to murder. and so you gotta be clean.
So I'm guessing that would have been dating stuff, right? Not just...
No, just masturbation.
What?
Yeah.
Dang.
I know. He was pretty intense. He was an intense guy.
That's so random because there's stake presidents that would not have kept someone from a mission.
Yeah, it was masturbation and pornography. I think
they almost always go together.
Yeah,
for a kid.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
almost always these days.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
yeah,
I'm just saying there's a randomness. We call it ecclesiastical roulette, bishop roulette, stake president
it's
roulette.
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think my bishop would have been okay with me going on the mission.
Right.
But my stake president said, no, that's unacceptable. He told me I needed 3 months of being clean before I could serve a mission. And that would postpone like well into the fall. And what am I going to do during that time? Well, I guess I'll go to BYU, Idaho. And so that's where I went.
Really quick, I want to follow that, but you mentioned some experiences in Nauvoo.
Yeah.
Spiritual experiences still in high school.
Big time.
Do you want to talk about that? Because I think that's part of your faith in your testimony.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't a facade to me. I truly believed this. And I had spiritual experiences. The youngest one I can remember was probably when I was about 12 years old, listening to my mom play a song about Jesus on the piano.
Do you know which one it was?
It was You Raise Me Up.
By Josh Groban.
By Josh Groban.
Yeah.
And I remember crying. It's the first time I'd cried like emotionally because of something spiritual. And so like from a young age, I was having these spiritual experiences. And I remember one in particular in Nauvoo at EFY. It was my first EFY.
For Mormons, never Mormons, this is the last city Joseph Smith lived in for 4 years before he was killed.
Yes.
Nauvoo, Illinois.
Nauvoo, Illinois.
So you went there on like a trip, a youth trip?
Yeah, EFY, it's a really popular church camp. The church has sort of adopted FSY, which is
for
similar.
The Strength of Youth.
Yep.
That's like church-sponsored EFY, right?
Exactly. And EFY still exists. I was an EFY counselor, and we'll talk about that later. But it's really common for the youngest you can go to EFY is 14 years old. And then you can go 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and then you graduate high school. So a typical, like, if you're really devout Mormon and your parents have the finances to send you to EFY and you go once a year, you're going to go to EFY a total of 4 times before you graduate high school. And that was me. I went all 4 times. My first time was Nauvoo, which wasn't really too far from where I grew up in Missouri.
Yeah.
So it worked out pretty good. And
because when the Mormons were kicked out of Missouri, they went to Illinois.
Yes, exactly.
On foot.
Yeah, on foot. Hand carts.
Yeah.
And so where am I going with this?
So you went to Nauvoo as your first EFY?
Yes, Nauvoo, first EFY. And I wanted to obtain a testimony, right? I'd had these spiritual experiences, but you're taught growing up that you need to obtain a testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith and a testimony of Jesus Christ. And so one of the EFY teachers taught a lesson about, he referred to it as the testimony triangle. Said there are 3 sides to your triangle. One is knowledge, one is spiritual confirmation, and then one is experiential confirmation. So to obtain this testimony, I wanted to fill all sides of the triangle. I wanted to know for myself if Joseph Smith was a prophet. And so I learned about Joseph Smith from the limited material the church would give me. Anyway,
you know what I'm about to ask, but keep going.
Yeah. So I learned about Joseph Smith, knowledge. I received a spiritual confirmation. This happened at Carthage during that week in Nauvoo. So you build up to going to Carthage jail. This is where Joseph Smith was murdered. You're anticipating a spiritual experience there. They tell you, like, you should spiritually prepare for this. We're going to go to Carthage. This should be a beautiful thing. So you're kind of being primed to have a spiritual experience. And that happened to me. I was sitting under a tree outside of Carthage jail. I had just gone into the room where Joseph Smith was shot. I'd felt the bullet hole in the door. And I went down to a tree and I prayed. And I remember sitting under this tree and crying. And I felt like I'd received this confirmation I'd been looking for. Joseph Smith was a prophet. He had to have been. I'm feeling these emotions so strongly that I'm crying. And then over the next several years, I built out that experiential side. Now I'm living it. So those three sides of the triangle were met for me: the knowledge, the spiritual, and then in practice, gaining that experiential side.
And I actually like that. That approach, like learn as much as you can about something, make sure you know how you feel about it, and then live it. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
The knowledge part obviously is coming up for me. Let's just quickly ask, are there things you weren't taught about Joseph Smith's behavior in Nauvoo, Illinois, that you wish you had known in terms of that knowledge side of the triangle, and that you think might have influenced your experience? Just because I'm curious, and maybe not. I'm just curious.
Totally. I had a unique upbringing. My dad was pretty nuanced in terms of church and church history, to the point where he eventually was sort of non-believing as well. But even before he was openly non-believing, I could see the signs, and he would talk negatively about some church history topics. So compared to a lot of my peers,
negatively or factually?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, both. Okay.
Yeah. So compared to a lot of my peers, I think I was less ignorant to some of the issues within church history.
So what age do you remember your dad dropping little truth bombs for you? And at what age do you remember realizing your dad wasn't necessarily fully on board?
Yeah.
And at what age did you realize maybe your dad was no longer a believer?
Sure.
Just to map that out on the timeline.
I think when I was 16 years old is when I first started to go, okay, these views are pretty nuanced.
What year was this?
2000. It would have been 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, easy math for me. That my age pretty well represents the year 2016. I was about 16 years old.
So you were born in 2000-ish?
I was born in 1999, but an end of the year.
Okay. So at 16, your dad starts dropping little truth bombs or hints?
Little truth bombs. And it's not like he was trying to ever like indoctrinate us or de-doctrinate us, if that's even a term. I think there were some issues that he couldn't really abide by. Race in the priesthood is one that I would hear about frequently.
What would he say?
How African Americans couldn't hold the priesthood for so long. And that's just factual, but it's not talked about in church settings. I really have my father to attribute. Like I'm grateful that those truths genuinely were brought to light in that way. So I understood some of the issues, but on a very surface level enough that I could kind of go, oh, well, God's all knowing and I can't really comprehend his ways. And so there's got to be a reason behind this. We can kind of just put this on the table, put it on the shelf. Right. And
obviously we're doing this 40-part series with John Turner on Joseph Smith. Obviously the big thing in Nauvoo is Joseph's polygamy and polyandry.
Right.
So by 16, 17, were you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think at 14 years old, when I was having this, spiritual confirmation that Joseph Smith was a prophet, I think I knew about polygamy, but I don't think I ever really thought too hard about it. I think I just took at face value the explanation that, well, Abraham had lots of wives, so clearly sometimes this is okay and sometimes it's not. And I went, okay, that makes sense. And I moved on.
Yeah. And if you're like me, you know that there was polygamy in early Mormon history, but you're never taught to tie it to actually Joseph Smith.
Right.
You're only told that he was married to Emma.
Yep.
And for me, there was never any church discussion in Sunday school, in priesthood, in seminary, at EFY, about Joseph Smith marrying over 30 women. Was that true for you?
I would say that's mostly true for me.
Okay.
It was talked about.
Okay.
But not frequently.
This is post Gospel Topics essays. This is post Mormon Stories. This is post CES Letter.
Yeah, the norm is changing big time right now. Polygamy has to be talked about. The church can't avoid it anymore. And so it is. It's openly talked about in a lot of church situations. In church on Sunday, a little bit less. But as a BYU student, certainly. Mm-hmm. As any college student who attends Institute, it's talked about. And you sort of hear the apologist arguments for it. And to be honest, I was pretty good at signing off on apologist arguments. I could see both vantage points. I could see both perspectives, and I chose the one that I thought was going to make me the most happy, which was the one that kept me in the church.
Interestingly, you kind of had your spiritual confirmation before the full knowledge.
True.
So, I mean, that's advantageous for the church if they can
Big
have
time.
you with a firm emotional testimony before you're given all the information in that triangle. It's going to land differently. The information is going to land
Absolutely.
differently if you're already a believer.
Yeah, you're being programmed from a young age. And I know that word might carry some weight to it, but it's true. You're being conditioned to believe a certain way. So you're going to, when you're pursuing truth, a very strong confirmation bias or the personal bias is going to be fed into that pursuit of truth. And there's nothing you can do about that because you've been raised being taught that the church is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, Joseph's polygamy was just, we don't understand God's ways. Is that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I was able to excuse it pretty well. I got really good at mental gymnastics later on in my life, and we can talk about that. I actually read the CES letter before I went on my mission.
Whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
wait. I have to ask, did it occur to you at all that you were being sort of psychologically tormented over, I'll just say masturbation, when the founder of your church married mother-daughter pairs, sister pairs, teenage girls as young as 14, and by all accounts, he likely had sex with some or most of them.
Right.
Lied about it, hid it from his own wife. I don't mean to be ham-fisted here, but I mean, that's true.
Right.
And then you're being tormented for just like normal, healthy, normative behavior. That probably you never made that connection, I'm guessing.
I see that now. Hindsight's 20/20.
Before today or today?
Before, whoa, this is blowing my mind. No,
it's wild, right? Isn't that kind of wild?
It's wild. And to have those kinds of thoughts to me was like, I'm giving myself an excuse for my bad behavior. I really internalized it. It was, I truly believed that what I was doing was wrong and that it made me less than. And yeah, to come up with excuses was just avoiding the problem. I saw this as a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Nauvoo, you have a strong spiritual experience. I mean, other people go to New York and do the Sacred Grove.
Yep. I did that too.
Okay. You did that too?
Yeah. That was my last EFY. So I must have been 17.
Looking back now, do you see that as manipulative? Do you see that as healthy and like myth and we all need heroes and it's good, it's good formation, or somewhere in the middle? Like looking back now, how do you see EFY visiting church sites, being given limited history, and then being curated to have spiritual experiences while super young?
Right. I love a good story. Everyone loves a good story. I think stories hold the potential to like instill values into us. Ultimately, a story should be a mirror. When you hear about the hero, you can see yourself in the protagonist. And so those stories, as a motivator, I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be connected with God. I wanted to serve and love people around me. I don't see these stories as bad in that sense. The problem is these stories aren't given metaphorical implications. They're given literal meaning. And so there's sort of this difference. And I learned this when I was going through my faith transition between objective truth and subjective truth. I don't have a problem with the stories, except that they claim to be objective.
The only problem is that they don't have as much weight. They're not as persuasive. They're not as impactful.
That's actually kind of true.
If they're viewed as symbolic or metaphorical.
Yeah.
So they would be neutering their value in your life if they told you, these aren't really true.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It does hold less weight. There are some religions, I know a lot of people who are into Buddhism don't necessarily believe in the theology. But they still derive a lot of value from the practices, the meditation practices. And so yeah, it could have,
or even the stories,
stories,
which probably aren't true.
Yeah, and we look
Yeah.
at, I mean, George Washington, the founding fathers, right? We paint these guys to be incredible. They were slave owners. Like, they were not great people. But are there still good values that you can derive from those stories? I think so. But at some point you have to learn that there's nuance.
Yeah.
There are facts you're not being told. So it's tricky. I see a lot of value in my Mormon upbringing, and I see some misleading practices, which is ultimately what caused me to remove my records entirely.
Sure.
Yeah.
You just gave the ending away. No, we started that way. Okay. So you have these EFY spiritual experiences at church history sites. You have a firm testimony. You have a dad who's nuanced.
Sure.
Did your dad come out to you as a non-believer before you put in your mission papers?
He did, because I pressed him.
Talk about, and you told me that your dad was listening to Mormon stories years ago, and has even come to a Thrive or something.
Yeah, he's met you, but you've met a lot of people. So.
Slow down and talk about like your interactions with your dad and the family dynamic.
Right.
When you've got this 8-member devout Mormon family, and all of a sudden dad starts showing cracks in his belief. What was that like?
Yeah, so we were a poster Mormon family. I mean, people really looked up to our family unit. I think for good reason. I really admire my parents for the way that they raised us. So I think the decision was, like, my dad didn't believe in the church, but he recognized that the church did a lot of good for his family. And he recognized that him leaving the church would cause a lot of upset. And so he made the decision to let those personal beliefs sort of remain closeted. I don't think it was a bad decision on his part. It allowed me to sort of move forward in my childhood with limited confusion towards religion. I could kind of just believe it at face value. And I kind of do find some value in believing in something in your adolescent years. And so I don't fault my dad. I don't fault my mom at all. But I could see the cracks in his testimony, right? And I was so judgmental. But I could tell that maybe he didn't believe things quite as devoutly as I did. And I kind of came to him point blank before I went on my mission. And I just said, "Hey, Dad, I just want to know, like, do you believe in the church?" And my dad's an honest man. And I think he's probably torn. And I think he just went, "Oh, like, son, you're coming to me and you're asking me point blank. And like, I feel like I just need to be honest with you. And like, yeah, to be honest, I don't really believe it." And my dad did not instill this desire in me to leave the church, right? Even after that conversation, I was 18 years old. I stayed in the church for another, I left when I was 24. So 6 years after that. So it was not, triggered by my dad. I don't think. I think I still, even if my dad was a fully devout Mormon, I think eventually I would have left the church.
What do you think about him? What do you feel about him when he told you that?
I'm ashamed to admit that I felt some judgment. I also wanted to understand where he was coming from. I think I've always had a pretty open mind. Even as a devout member of the church, I've always been pretty nuanced towards LGBTQ. And I've always felt like we should just love everyone where they're at, despite their beliefs. I've had these sorts of thoughts and ideas. And so when my dad said, "I don't believe in the church anymore," I wanted to understand where he was coming from. And that's why I read the CES letter at 18 years old before I went on my mission.
And he didn't recommend it, or he did recommend it?
I don't remember who recommended it, but I actually think, I know my older brother had read the CES letter, and he is still active LDS.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had read the CES letter, and she's still active LDS.
Yeah.
And so I felt comfortable reading it because these devout members of the church had read it. And I wasn't worried about sort of dismantling my testimony. But I moved forward very cautiously and very intentionally. I would read the CES letter like contingent on me reading the Book of Mormon the same amount of time. So I could read the CES letter, but I had to dedicate the same amount of time to reading the Book of Mormon. And I had regular conversations with faithful members who had read the CES letter. And I approached it from a standpoint of, I want to understand this document from both sides. I came away from reading the CES letter, understanding both sides on some arguments, and on others not really being able to excuse. The Book of Abraham is one that I've never been able to reconcile.
So that was a problem for you at 18.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was never able to reconcile the Book of Abraham. I was able to kind of, throw out the long scroll theory or the catalyst theory, and but I never fully reconciled that one. That one was one where I had to go, okay, I just need to act on faith. And now I look back and I go, why? But
that was the impetus to my faith crisis.
Really?
The big one.
Broke your shelf.
That was the first big one. Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly because I had lived to my 30s and never been told the story.
Yeah.
I'm like, this, my response was,
that'll do it.
When my cousin told me, let me tell you about these scrolls and the mummy and the fact that Egyptologists,
right?
My response was, there's no way that's true.
Yeah.
And he's like, go read about it. I'm like, okay. But this is back in like 2000, 2001. Anyway, for me, it was just the fact that I had not been told it.
I can only imagine because I had heard some things growing up.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of members of the church who are now in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up,
like your dad.
Like my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, you're told nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you find this stuff out and you go, oh, I've been lied to my whole life. And I think the shelf breaks really quickly in that case.
For those who don't know, go to cesletter.org. It's a book. It's a PDF. And it's just, Jeremy Runnels is someone who's been on Mormon Stories many times. It's basically 80-page document about the things that caused him to lose his faith. So it's influenced a lot of people. Wow. So, okay. So you read the CES letter at 18 before your mission.
Yep.
Book of Abraham was a crack or a shelf item.
Yeah.
Do you remember any other shelf? Was polygamy a shelf item, or was racism a shelf item?
I mean, it's all tough.
Was Book of Mormon historicity a shelf item?
Yeah. There were some. I read a response to the CES letter, an apologist response
by Jim Bennett or someone else.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I know he met Jeremy Runnels.
Yeah, it's Jim Bennett.
Okay. And so I was able to. I mean, there are some things. So like the historicity of the Book of Mormon, and claiming that Joseph Smith sort of took names of cities and places from his childhood or from maps that he had and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are some claims that are far-fetched, like some of those cities that Joseph Smith supposedly derived from his childhood weren't named until after the Book of Mormon was published. I don't know, little things like that. So I was able to look at the CES letter with some nuance, look at the response with some nuance. I think I was a closeted, very nuanced Mormon. And outwardly, I was just fully devout, fully bought in. But inwardly, I went, there's the possibility that this is not right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So at 18, you were willing to at least entertain the possibility in your mind that the church wasn't true.
Yep.
Whoa.
And I think I've heard you talk about being a utility Mormon before.
Yeah.
I think I fell into that category where I went, I don't know. Like there's definitely possibility for this being not true, but it works so well in my life. I fit the mold great. I'm a straight white male. I've got the priesthood, right? A loving Mormon family, a loving community, all these friends in the church. It worked really well for me in my life. And I think it was an avenue through which I could do a lot of good. I could serve within my community. There's serving outside of the community as well. And so if I'm 50-50 on whether or not it's true, why don't I just fully commit to it being true? Because it's going to do the best for me in my life, or so I thought.
No, I stayed in the church 13 years after I lost my faith in it.
Yep.
Feeling like it would be the best thing for my marriage.
Interesting.
For myself and for my children.
Yep.
Can I just say really quickly, I had the same dilemma your dad did. When I was in Logan, I met a man, he was my accountant, who did my taxes for Mormon Stories and for our personal. And he confided in me that he didn't believe anymore, but he had not told his wife or kids because he didn't want to wreck their lives. He didn't want to blow up his marriage.
Wild.
And so, you know, that introduced to me this idea of like, whoa, do I lie to my kids? Do I hide this from my kids? But then the flip side is, if I lie and hide from my kids because I think it's good for them overall, then if they go on a mission and get married in the temple, but then find out it's not true, and then their life blows up as a result, and they find out I knew and hid and lied to them or raised them in something I knew wasn't true, then they would turn to me and say, you knew all along.
Right.
And that's the dilemma a parent faces. Do they want to blow up their family? Do they want to blow up their marriage? Not all marriages survive this. Do they know a better way to raise their kids?
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff your dad was, and I struggle with trying to figure all this out.
Totally.
So
it's a valid struggle. I think a good analogy, and this would sound so offensive to a believing member of the church, is Santa Claus. Parents lie to their kids all the time, and it's about Santa. And eventually, either you tell your kids or they find out that Santa Claus isn't real. And imagine that, but stretched out over a lot more years, and you build your life around it. And it's discovering Santa Claus isn't real to the extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess for your dad, I mean, something that really stresses out a non-believing Mormon parent is the idea of their kids serving a mission and becoming part of the church's effective sales force when the parent knows that they don't believe anymore. That's a really hard thing for a parent. And I think every non-believing Mormon parent faces that moment of, do I at least let my kid know I don't believe anymore before they make the final decision to go on a mission?
Right.
And I guess for your dad's sake, for his conscience's sake, there's a part of me that's glad he was able to, that you forced that conversation with him.
Sure.
Because I imagine that felt good to him on some level to be able to have that conversation with you before you served your mission.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's really fascinating. And so would you say you were 50-50 church is true at that point?
At that point, yes.
Wow.
And I made the decision to serve my mission anyway.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, even if the church isn't true, and this is where I gave myself an ultimatum. I said, if I ever do leave the church, I will never leave Christianity. I love Jesus way too much. And I will never remove my records from the church, because why would I do that? And spoiler alert, I wouldn't consider myself a Christian, and I no longer have my records in the church. But I decided I'm going to follow Jesus. Even if the church isn't true, this is a way that I can follow Jesus, serve people the way he would. So I went on my mission.
Okay, wait. So as an act of faith, you put in your papers, and then you're told by your stake president, because you do healthy, normative teenage boy and girl behavior, you aren't worthy yet to go on a mission. So you go to BYU, Idaho.
Right.
For a semester or for a year?
Yeah. So first thing before I went to BYU, Idaho, is I got rid of my smartphone and I got a flip phone.
I've thought about doing that. Not for porn, but
just in general.
Because social media is such a problem.
Yeah. And social media was part of it, but it was mostly the porn thing. I actually don't have social media anymore. I got rid of it maybe 5 months ago. Still have my smartphone, but I got rid of that distraction. That's besides the point. Got a flip phone, went to BYU, Idaho for a semester. I was clean for 3 months.
So you did it.
I did it.
You did 3 months. That's actually I'll just say is I was a therapist at BYU in the counseling center.
Yeah.
And students would come to me trying to stay clean for multiple months.
Yeah.
And it's very hard, not just because it's normal, healthy behavior, but because trying not to do it psychologically often makes you want to do it more.
Exactly. It's like, don't think about unicorns.
Yeah. Exactly.
What do you think about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that you went 3 months is kind of it's very difficult, I think, in my experience.
Yeah. And I if I didn't get the flip phone, I don't think I could have done it. Mm-hmm. But I pretty much couldn't access any adult content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't have a laptop.
Yeah, I did, but I was able to restrain.
Yeah, well, okay. How was BYU Idaho?
Loved it.
Oh, cool.
Loved it. Only there for one semester. I think I loved BYU Idaho. Even more than that, I loved the autonomy that I was suddenly given. You know, I grew up in a very structured home and like very regimented. And so I was suddenly all on my own. And that was incredibly exciting to me. I'm a very independent person. I like to figure things out on my own. So I had a great time.
Okay. Was it good for your testimony, BYU Idaho?
Yeah, for sure.
How so?
I was all bought in. Went after that semester, went on my mission. I think, I made that decision. I was going to commit to the church anyway, even though I wasn't sure if it was true. And I committed to that. When I left on my mission, are you ready to jump into mission now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I left on my mission,
that's
called when I realized
Texas, right?
Texas, Fort Worth.
Okay.
I realized that it's really hard to serve a mission if you don't know the church is true.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're supposed to testify that you know it's true.
Every day.
It's everyone, every day. And it's not, you can't just say, I hope it's true or I feel it's true, right?
Yeah, you can't sit down with someone who's interested in the church and be like, yeah, I think this might be true.
I'm 50-50, but
I'm 50-50,
get baptized.
But like we have cookies sometimes at activities. So I quickly discovered that wasn't going to cut it. I needed to know that the church was true for myself, and it became my endeavor. I was told in the MTC that the more that you proclaim the truthfulness of the gospel, the more you'll believe it yourself. Well, duh. I mean, that's like emotional mental programming at its finest. And to me, I was like, oh, I just need to act in faith. But no, I was being programmed.
The best way to gain a testimony is by bearing it. That's what I was
exactly.
taught. Yeah.
So I did that.
That's self-brainwashing.
Self-brainwashing. Yeah. Wild. But you don't see that. I mean, you are in an echo chamber for 2 years. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yep. The first year, so like first half of my mission was really like building that. I had a moment halfway through my mission where I was preparing to go to the temple. I was going to get to go. I didn't get to go that much on my mission. And I went
Temple.
Dallas.
Yeah.
And had a subpar experience. And that affected me.
What does that mean? A subpar experience in the temple?
I mean, I'd been going through this piecing together my faith for a year and really committing to the bit. And then I had this moment where I was going to go to the temple. I fasted to prepare. I prayed every day and read my scriptures about temple work. I wanted to have a really meaningful experience in the temple because I thought this is the moment that my testimony is made or it's broken. And I went to the temple and it was fine, but I didn't feel anything special.
Yeah.
It was a ritual. It was a ceremony. And then I went home and I went, that's it. That's what I'm committing my life to right now. I've spent a year devoting myself to this. I had a moment halfway through my mission where I went, I don't know if this is what I want to do. I called my mission president and told him about my experience. He was a very loving man. I love my mission president. And he helped me sort of reason through some of this. He sent me some scriptures to read in Exodus about temple stuff and helped me sort of piece together why I could have had that experience. And he helped me do the mental gymnastics to go, okay, no, I can keep doing this. And I finished. And then the second half of my mission was like testimony built. And by the time I came home from my mission, I had sort of worked through that faith crisis, and stepping off the plane, coming home, I was fully bought into the church. I had read a response to the CES letter at that point. So I'd kind of worked that through. I'd read a lot of material about temple ceremonies and stuff. And I thought, no, I fully believe this. Like, I'm committed. And that was freshman BYU Ryan, fully committed.
Would it surprise you to know that the author of the response to the CES letter doesn't really view things that way anymore?
No way.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did like 10 hours with him on Mormon Stories.
Really?
While he was still a believer. Yeah. A nuanced believer.
Sure.
but I don't think he's still in the same place.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
But I think he's still great. I mean, I think he still feels like, oh, it's helped people, so I'll leave it up.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Anyway, it's kind of wild.
That is pretty wild.
So you get home,
Yep.
and what happens? Yeah.
Yep. Go to BYU.
Provo.
Yep.
Not Idaho.
Not Idaho.
Why?
I always wanted to go to Provo. I didn't get in the first time I applied. BYU Idaho was my backup plan. Reapplied and got in.
Okay.
Went there, fully devout. Pretty normal. Like I went there.
When you sign the honor code before you go, do you think about what you're signing? And do you think about the fact that your education, your degree, your standing, your status at the university could be in jeopardy if you lose your faith?
Yeah. No, not really. Why would I lose my faith, John?
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it wasn't a question in my mind. Obviously, I'm going to be Mormon for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you don't really think about those implications, which I think this is where I felt like I kind of got, a little bait and switch from BYU. And my last year at BYU was not enjoyable.
Well, don't jump ahead. Okay, so you go to BYU Provo. Yeah, what was it like? Did you do the dorms? Did you?
Actually, no. I had some friends who were no longer freshmen, and I wanted to live with them.
Okay.
And so it was actually against the rules. You had to live in the dorms as a freshman. But I read the fine print and saw that you don't lose any sort of like endorsement or accreditation or anything like that. You just have to pay like a $75 fine. And so I said, okay, well, I'm just going to pay the fine. So I lived off campus, never did the freshman housing thing.
Did you, let's see. So you didn't live in the dorms. Did you know what you wanted to study degree-wise?
Yeah, I thought that I wanted to do like pre-dental stuff. So study science. And then I decided I didn't want to do that. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I looked into entrepreneurship, and then that wasn't a good fit. I bounced around a bit. Ultimately settled on HR management. It was within the business school, which I had an affinity for that sort of thing. And it was a very people-oriented degree. And I'm a very social person. And I could take my business acumen and sort of applied the two together. It just seemed like a good fit. And when I took some of the classes and started moving that direction, I discovered that it was something I was at least somewhat passionate about, and ended up getting my degree there.
I forgot to ask you a question about your mission, so I'm going to just throw this in.
Okay.
When you were doubting on your mission halfway through, did you ever reach out to your dad to talk to him about it?
I did.
How was that? Or your mom?
I did not reach out to my mom. I reached out to my dad.
Were you able to call home by this point?
Yep.
Weekly?
Weekly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they had changed the rule about
They had
calling
changed the
home.
rule. The first couple months of my mission was old rule. But for most of my mission, I could call every week. Yep. I called my dad.
How did he handle his son questioning the faith as a missionary, as a non-believing, physically and mentally out Mormon dad?
Yeah. He's just so supportive. He sees a lot of value in me discovering who I am and discovering what I believe, and he'll support me any way I go.
So you didn't feel like he was trying to influence you, like, come home, you know?
No, my dad has never tried to influence me one way or the other.
Wow.
He's been very supportive. I'm sure internally he might struggle with that. He might want to try to convince me to leave, but he doesn't do that because this isn't his journey. It's mine. And so I love this about my dad. He'll listen to me and he'll say like, son, these are good thoughts you're having. Like, I support you if you're in, and I support you if you're out. He's always been that way.
Makes me want to know what his profession is, but you may or may not be able to say.
I don't know if I can. I'm sure I can. I mean, by trade, he's a therapist.
Oh, a psychologist or
psychologist.
A
He got his PhD in marriage and family psychology.
Oh, cool. From Texas Tech?
From Purdue.
Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, wow. All right, cool. Shout out to brother Huey.
Brother Huey.
Was he ever a bishop?
He was in the bishopric. Was he
Okay.
ever a bishop? I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So he let you have your own journey. Okay, so back to BYU. What year did you start BYU?
Oh,
That's what I was trying to think.
2021.
Okay, so this is post-COVID.
Yes.
This is during the COVID era.
Was it 2020? No, it was beginning of 2021.
Okay.
Like January 2020.
So this would have been in the COVID era.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. COVID hit halfway through my mission. And then, first couple of years of BYU were pretty COVID influenced.
Okay. Okay. So we're talking 2020s now at BYU. All right. So, I mean, I have a couple questions about what was going on at BYU. There was the whole Light the Rainbow thing, right?
Yeah.
Was that in the church?
I never cared.
What?
I never cared.
Okay. Wait. You said early you were LGBT kind of friendly.
I was, yeah. But I didn't have like a political stance on it. I was like pretty ignorant. I'm ashamed to admit now. Like politically, even like social politics, I kind of just went, my concern's to graduate college, find a wife, and have some kids. So I supported LGBTQ. If I saw, two guys or two girls holding hands, I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some friends that were gay, and it never affected my relationships with them. But I guess I wasn't overly adamant about LGBTQ.
So when LGBT BYU students are secretly lighting up the big Y, BYU Y on the side of the mountain rainbow at night with rainbow colors, what did you think or feel about that?
Not much. I guess I'd heard about it through social circle, other BYU students. I think a lot of BYU students who were devout, which was my friend group, would talk, kind of negatively about that kind of a thing. And I never talked negatively about it. I would just kind of go, I don't know why we care to talk about it positively or negatively. People can kind of do what they want.
Kind of a libertarian, live and let live.
Yeah, kind of. And I'm not that way now. Now I'm pretty adamant about accepting people for who they are. I was recently hanging out with some of my friends who all graduated from BYU, and they're all still devout. And they were throwing around the word tranny. And it stabbed me.
Referring to transgender people.
And it stabbed me in the heart. And I went, I don't know if I would have said, I think I did say, I've been much more vocal about that sort of thing now. But it kind of hit me because I went, these are my friends. Like, did I ever say that derogatory term? Like, I've sort of become more self-aware of the ways in which I've been just kind of ignorant about social issues that do matter. But as a BYU student, I was pretty apathetic. I didn't really care.
Yeah. I mean, it's developmentally normal to be focused on what you're focused on as a young adult, oftentimes. Do you remember Holland's musket speech? Well, do you remember the BYU graduate? Well, do you remember? There's so many things to remember. Do you remember when Cosmo was gay? When Cosmo came out as gay? Were you there when that happened?
I didn't.
You didn't even know. That's Charlie Bird.
Yeah.
So at some point while you were at BYU, the Cosmo the Cougar came out as gay, but you didn't even know.
No.
What a bubble.
Yeah.
You're there. It's national news.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know.
Yeah. I'm ashamed to admit I was politically very ignorant.
No, don't be ashamed. It's the bubble's real. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
The Mormon bubble is real.
Right.
Mormons do their thing, and they often are oblivious to what's going on in the church.
Totally.
Let alone outside the church. Okay, so you didn't know Charlie Bird, Cosmo came out as gay. Do you remember when Holland gave the famous musket talk?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that was in response to that was in response to another BYU student who was valedictorian coming out as gay during his graduation valedictorian speech.
Ugh.
Holland's talk was in response to that. So
that's messy.
Did you know about the valedictorian coming out as gay as a BYU student? Do you remember that?
I didn't know about the valedictorian coming out as gay.
Okay.
I knew about the musket fire speech, and I listened to it and I went, well, that's pretty intense. But it didn't rock me like it would today. Like if I heard that today, I'd be like, oh my. But back then I just kind of went, oh, it's intense, but godly truth is godly truth. I don't know. I probably said something stupid like that.
No. I mean, Yeah, I imagine most BYU students and most Mormons are just that way. They're
Right.
focused on their faith and their lives,
Sure.
and they are oblivious to all the stuff
Right.
that's going on. Okay. How did you have, so at some point the church with Mormon stories and the CES letter and other things, the church realized it was going to lose a lot of the older generations. But the reason why mostly was, as we mentioned earlier, was because they felt deceived. So they realized they had to change church curriculum and expose young Mormons to the basic problems with the church in a way where they would still believe, but not feel like they were lied to.
Right.
So did you get any instruction at BYU in your religion classes or elsewhere around things like the Book of Abraham, Joseph Smith's polygamy, the first vision, the seer stone in the hat, treasure digging, all that stuff?
Yes.
How? Like, talk about that. What classes, what professors, what did you learn?
Yeah. Foundations of the Restoration. They would touch on that sort of thing. And I guess I had already worked through a lot of that stuff.
Interesting. You were quote inoculated.
Right. Yeah. And so I just I was like, yeah, I already know about this. So it didn't like impact me in a major way.
I mean, I think you could say in a way that's a smart decision the church made to inoculate people,
right,
by exposing them to these concepts early.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think I was inoculated maybe a little bit earlier than most. So for some people, maybe a Foundations of the Restoration class would open their eyes a little bit.
Yeah, but for you, it's old hat.
But you're being fed the historical information from an apologist standpoint, and you're not hearing. It's not an open debate. It's like, these are the church facts, and this is how we can reconcile the fact that the church is true with the historical facts. It's not like you have John DeLynn there to debate someone. So you're hearing the facts, but you're hearing them in a very positive light, and
not with full information, I should add.
And I think you're probably right about that.
Yeah. And I wouldn't expect them to give all the information, but they're going to give just enough.
Yeah.
And then with the right framing.
Yep.
To have the greatest chance that you'll keep believing.
Yep.
Or just not pay attention, which is what happened with you.
I think a common rhetoric is, here's a piece of controversial information. Here's how we can make it make sense with the church. So now you know there's controversial information, but it can be made okay with the church. And so you go, oh, okay. And so then when you hear something controversial in the future, you're like, oh, there's probably a good rebuttal for this. Like, the church is true no matter what someone tells me. I just haven't really heard the other argument, but whatever. I believe in the church. I don't need to hear the other argument.
It's almost like once you've been able to reconcile one issue with, I had that faithful emotional experience and I'm committed to this, then 10, 20 more issues could arise and they all just kind of off the back like water to a duck, basically. Yeah. Is that fair?
I would agree.
It's pretty powerful. I mean, it explains why the church has survived the internet. I mean, it's lost a lot of people, but it's kept a lot of people.
Yep.
And it was keeping you for years, which is wild.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have to ask also, we've covered this in the past on Mormon Stories. Were you aware of students at BYU who didn't believe or who were questioning or doubting their faith? What was that? How did you perceive them? Did you perceive that they had a place to go, ways to meet each other? Right now, I mean, while you were faithful at BYU. Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to touch on this one.
Yeah.
No.
No what?
No, I didn't know about people who had left the church, who didn't believe in the church, people who were having faith crisis.
Because what happens if you're a BYU student and you lose your faith?
You put a big target on your back. Your diploma's in jeopardy. I mean, it's an uncomfortable place to be.
So are you saying a BYU student can be kicked out of the university if they lose their faith?
I don't think they can be kicked out if they lose their faith, but you can be kicked out if you live a lifestyle outside of Mormonism. Hypothetically, if I drink coffee on campus, I could be kicked out because that falls outside of the honor code.
Well, if you stop going to church, you get kicked out.
That's also true. You have to be an active church attendee.
So, I mean, it's kind of like the masturbation thing. You hide it, you lie about it.
Right.
And you just get by.
Yeah.
But if you were to come out about it and talk about it, and act accordingly, meaning not go to church, tell people you don't believe anymore, you are getting kicked out.
Right. And the attrition numbers, it's something like 50% of converts leave, and something like 1/3, about 36% of born and raised Mormons leave. So there are BYU students that are going to leave the church or who have inwardly left, but you don't hear about it. It's very hush hush. And it wasn't until I left the church and I started, finding these people. And then when you find one or two, then you get invited to social events and you find this sort of like underground operation, and you realize that it's a pretty vast network. There are a lot of people at BYU who are nuanced, who are questioning, who are just straight up non-believing. But they're very cautious for good reason. Their diploma is on the line. And if you step out of line, you can lose that. It's a really miserable place to sit. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it later.
Yeah. And another weird, unfortunate reality is so many of BYU credits don't transfer.
Yep.
So, all the religion classes you have to take don't transfer. A lot of the language credits may not transfer, and like American Heritage won't transfer. So like you could end up setting yourself back a full year, if not more.
Right.
In addition to disappointing your parents and your siblings and your community and all the other things. And it can be very expensive, especially if you aren't loaded and don't have a ton of money. So, I mean, it's big stakes.
Big stakes.
Yeah.
I think in reality, the risk is pretty low. I don't think that like disbelieving in the church would get you kicked out of BYU in and of itself. Maybe I'm ignorant. So this is where a lot of people disagree with me. But I feel like most people wouldn't like report you to the honor code. And then I haven't had any bump-ins with the honor code. But I feel like most people would be like, oh, you're struggling with your faith, let's help you. I never felt like I was going to be kicked out for disbelieving. But if you openly disbelieve, you put a target on your back.
Yeah.
And now everyone's looking at you. And if you step out of line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying, nor do I believe that if you quietly disbelieve and you tell a roommate, they're going to kick you out. Sure. Of course not.
Yeah.
Because that'd be so many students. But you have to hide and lie.
Yep.
And and you can't be open about it.
Totally. And the stakes are so high. It's like if I'm walking on a 3-foot walkway, like the chances of me stepping off that walkway are pretty low. But if that walkway is 100 feet off the ground, it's going to be really scary walking on that. Even though the likelihood of me falling off is very low, the stakes are so high. And so you're just kind of in this constant state of paranoia. Like, am I going to step out of line? Am I going to lose my diploma? What are all those implications?
Yeah, and so it's the living inauthentically, hiding.
That's big too.
And then the fear of what happens if you're found out.
Yeah.
During a pretty formative time where if there's any time in your life where you should be able to talk openly about what you think and feel, form your identity, meet others, figure out where you want to go in your life, it probably should be your university experience.
I would agree.
But you can't, right? You can't openly do that without putting a target on your back and risking.
And that creates a whole separate issue. This inauthenticity issue, or this like double life, right? You feel like you almost like you have to live this double life. When you're on campus, you have to act a certain way. And then when you're off campus, you can sort of go and like take a breath of fresh air. Like, I don't have to act anymore. And that's a miserable place to sit in. I'd like part of this interview to be like, I understand there are a lot of BYU students who probably listen to the Mormon Stories podcast. And so hopefully people can hear my story and see themselves in it a little bit and maybe, take some tips and tricks from it. But one of them was coffee shops.
Okay, wait, before we get there.
Okay, yeah.
So how far into your time in Provo were you a committed believer? And then how did the cracks start emerging for you?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
It was like a year ago. that I was like done.
So you got through your junior year at BYU as a committed Orthodox believer.
Yeah. So it was really the last 2 semesters.
Okay.
So 1 full year for me.
What happened?
But the semester prior to that, I think cracks had started to form.
What happened there?
For me, it was a lot less church history based. I had read the CES Letter. I had read the apologist arguments. None of that was really a huge surprise to me. It was honestly a pursuit of God. I had this really deep relationship with who I deemed Jesus Christ and God. But I was reading in Galatians about Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus. And at this point, I had taken a step away from King James and I was reading NIV. So I was taking a step towards Christianity, like mainstream Christianity, because I had found like a new sort of spiritual connection to it, and I liked that. Anyway, in the NIV, the wording is something along the lines of, after his conversion on the road to Damascus, for 3 years, Paul's immediate response was not to consult any human being. And he goes on to outline why that decision was made, right? This godly truth that was given to him did not come from human origin. It came from a godly source. And so there were other apostles preaching at the time he could have reached out to. He could have, assimilated into the church at that time. But for 3 years, he just focused on his relationship with God. That really hit me because I realized that my relationship with God, as strong as it was always imposed from this external source, the Mormon Church. And so how can I know that that is singular between me and God?
Interesting.
If it's so my exodus out of the church was much more theological, philosophical, and much less church history.
Yeah.
I think for most people it's church history or social political issues. Not really the case for me.
So before we follow that thread out,
Sure.
I want to make sure you mentioned becoming an EFY counselor.
Yes.
3 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should touch on that.
Do you want to touch on that first? Because that precedes your loss of faith. Was that an important, that you mentioned your outline, so.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that is a big deal. So I've worked with teenagers quite a bit. I think that it just kind of fits my personality. I like to have a lot of fun. I'm a lot of, high energy. So I've been a youth mentor. I've been a cross country coach. I've been a music teacher.
Did you run cross country in high school?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was a youth mentor at a residential treatment center. And while I was there, I formed a cross country team.
Nice.
And ran it. So it was just a little passion project on the side.
Nice.
But I wanted to be an EFY counselor. EFY impacted me a ton. I went to all 4 years. So I made that decision. And it was incredible. I don't have a ton to say about EFY and HXP. But basically, I loved
What's
EFY.
What's HXP again?
It used to be HEFY.
Oh, okay.
Now it's HXP. It's humanitarian
Oh,
EFY.
it's where you go to a foreign country. And
right.
Where'd you go? What countries?
I went to Colombia. I only did it for 1 summer, but it's a month-long trip. Both of these experiences were incredible. The people I met, I'm still friends with to this day. The youth that I was a mentor over, I regularly, at this point now, a lot of them are going on missions. So I regularly get updated and attend mission farewells. I love these kids with my whole heart. And I will always cherish the memories I made as an EFY counselor and an HXP leader. I really do think there was something special there. It's sort of changed definition or form in my life. But there's a powerful force that I attributed to God when I was having those experiences. And now I think I attribute more to love. But I just, I don't have anything negative to say about EFY and HXP. I loved those experiences.
No, I don't. And I don't need you to say negative things. I loved EFY.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned in your outline partly because, well, Mark Twain said travel is fatal to prejudice. So I think getting that trip to Colombia opened your eyes a little bit. Yeah. And then also I think the type of love you experienced there, you wrote your outline, was different than any type of love you'd ever experienced prior. So that's all. I'm not digging for dirt. I don't stick
Yeah,
with it.
no, I would agree. Yeah. We don't have to touch on this too much either, but I agree. I really like that quote. I've never heard it by Mark Twain, but I think part of me having an open mind did come from travel. I've traveled a lot more than most people do in their undergrad. I really made that a priority. So I've been to like 15 countries and seen a lot of cultures and just sort of experienced love on a humanity scale. And I think that did wonders in terms of broadening my perspective on who and what God is and how love sort of spans to everyone.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So that was it sounds like that was a soul expanding experience.
Incredibly.
Being an EFY counselor and
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Really strengthened my testimony as an EFY counselor and as an HXP leader. I faced some cognitive dissonance as an HXP leader because I had doubts prior to me leaving on my HXP trip. I really wasn't so sure about the church.
You also mentioned traveling to 5 countries in Europe.
Yes.
I forgot about that. That must have been mind expanding.
Yeah, I probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago, my best friend got me into travel. He is in New Zealand currently. He's been to over 50 countries. It's his passion. He loves to travel the world. And he got me into it. The first trip I took while I was in college was a trip to visit 5 different countries in Europe. I'm a rock climber. We climbed the Luzzoni Dam. Perspective widening, broadening for sure. And all of those travel experiences I've had have sort of made me realize how small Mormonism is, how small my subjective upbringing was. It's broadened my perspective to maybe there could be truth, love, and happiness outside of this bubble that I grew up in.
Yeah, I remember doing the math. I call it doing the math, where I divided the number of Mormons,
by the population of the world.
By the population of the world.
0.02%. If you're counting 17 million, which is not an accurate number.
And you concluded something that I concluded, which is what about God?
Yeah, he's way bigger. He's got to be bigger than religion. Yeah.
Or he's really ineffective.
Or he's bad at his job.
or humans are terrible people. You know what I mean? There's
a lot of conclusions you can make there.
But the number is a problem.
It is. Yeah. We've got the 3 characteristics of God: omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. He's all loving, he's all knowing, he's all powerful. That God, his one true church, is 0.02% of the population. That's a stretch.
Now, of course, a apologist Mormon would say, "Oh, but everyone can get their work done for them when they die," and so that's the feature, not the bug of Mormonism.
Yeah,
because everybody has a chance at the celestial kingdom, unlike the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's a nice backflip by the apologists. The mental gymnastics are impressive, but
you don't buy that now.
No, I don't buy it anymore.
Okay. Okay, so we're at the kind of junior to senior year. What some cracks have developed, but how did you start going downhill?
So I read that snippet in Galatians. I did some soul searching. I'm a big journaler, and I was journaling and just saying, I feel like I want to seek God in my life. I don't want to put constraints on him. I don't want to put God in a box. I don't want to say God is a man. I don't want to say God is Jesus. I don't want to say God is this or this or this. So I sort of embarked on this philosophical journey where I thought, well, okay, who and what is God? And I followed that train of thought. I think the big thing, I could really get into the weeds on philosophy and my thought process that eventually led me out of the church. I could just talk for hours about that.
Well, let's hit some of the big ones.
Yeah. That was the big thing. God, my view of God expanded and sort of burst religion asunder. Sounds dramatic.
Because Mormon God can be viewed as small.
Yes, I would say so.
And
Mormon God abides by a set of rules. I think that God as a concept is this ineffable being. And if God is those 3 things, all loving, all powerful, all knowing, he would, I mean, just by light years, he'd be really far away from us in terms of comprehension. We could never understand a God like that. And so the natural human tendency when we don't understand something is to model it. We do this with the atom. We don't know what the atom looks like, but we have the Bohr model. And I think we do the same thing with religion, where God is this ineffable entity. We're going to give it a name and a face. We're going to give it a set of rules. We call that theology. We're going to build a religion around this. And I started to deconstruct religion and God as this, definable thing. And that was what, the cracks, and then that's what just kind of burst it. And it was so quick. Once I started down that line of logic and reasoning, it was seriously, 24 years of my life, formative programming, all of that. And in 2 weeks, I had completely lost my testimony.
Let me just put on my Mormon apologist hat just to push back on a couple things you said.
Sure.
So a Mormon apologist would say, that 3 legs of the stool,
yep.
Theodicy, is it, or problem with evil? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that called? Is that theodicy?
Yeah. Problem with evil.
Theodicy.
I don't know.
You've got one of the legs wrong. Mormonism is unique in that it doesn't claim that God's all powerful.
Yeah,
Mormon
because
God,
we have free will.
Not just that. Yes, we have free will, but also Mormon God is one of many gods, and Mormon God has to live in the rules of the universe.
Yeah.
In other words, God is subject to law,
right.
Moral law. Somehow, that's teaching. That's
right.
Mormon theology. So, what if somebody said, "Well, come back, come back, Ryan. You got it wrong. You have unrealistic expectations of Mormon God. Mormon God is not all powerful. Mormon God is a lower G God, not a capital G God.
Right.
It's a lowercase G God. Mormon God is subject to rules."
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I do think that they sort of limit the power that God has in Mormonism. Certainly not in Christianity.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, apologist.
So you're going to come back?
Yeah.
You're going to come back to church? No, I mean, I'll just say the answer that often people who have thought about this give to that is, well, if Mormon God isn't all powerful, then is Mormon God a God worth worshiping?
Worth worshiping. Yeah. Yeah. It's been long enough that it's a little bit difficult for me to step back into that way of thinking.
Because you don't have that mindset now.
I don't.
Okay, you've moved beyond even the God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not trying to persuade you, and I'm just
this is good, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So your belief, let's just say your belief in Mormon God deconstructed in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As a senior at BYU.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
Yeah, it moved very quickly. I'm a fast mover in general.
Mm-hmm.
When I set my mind to something, I just move forward with it. And so I was the same way with this. Honestly, I got excited about it. I went, oh my God, I discovered this God that's bigger than religion, and I don't know what it is. And I'm so excited to figure out what I do believe in now. I got really excited. I didn't really mourn my loss of faith or religion right away. I did eventually, big time.
So did you perceive danger for yourself at BYU once?
Not really.
Okay.
I was pretty ignorant. And once I was pretty open right at the onset. And I had some people who heard me being open, who were also nuanced or had left, but were much more cautious than I was, reach out to me and say, "Hey, Ryan, I really respect what you're feeling. To be honest, I feel the same way. I think you should be a lot more careful than you're being right now." And I went, "Oh." It's like if you're talking out loud in a setting where you're supposed to be whispering, and someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, we need to be quiet right now."
You're saying the quiet parts out loud, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then that put me in this mindset of you're in danger, and you have to be very careful, tread lightly.
Which you were.
Which I was. And then
what were you? I mean, do you think you were?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, even if the risk is low, the stakes are high.
Yeah.
And that's what was outlined to me was, "Hey, Ryan, you only have a year left. If I were you, I'd tread very lightly, be careful, because you don't want to lose your diploma." Yeah.
So kind of the students are self-policing a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. Just out of care for me. They're like, hey Ryan, like
Yeah.
I respect you being outward, but I would be a little bit more cautious.
So yeah, what was that last year like? Was it hard? Was it fun? Was it exciting?
It was one semester of just me. It was like a soul searching semester. I felt immediately very lonely because I'm very social. I've got all these friends, but they're all very active in the faith. And so even though they still want to hang out with me and see me and stuff, when I'd go to those social settings, something just felt very off. I no longer viewed things, the world, the church, everything the way that they did. So I felt different than them. And I wanted to explore this new life that I was given, this new world where I can do anything, I can experience anything, I can follow any train of thought. And so I wanted to experiment. But I wasn't in a social setting where something like that would be, acceptable. And so I just I struggled because I felt like even though my friends didn't leave me, I felt like I'd lost the old friendship. I'd lost that connection I had with them.
What's tricky is they weren't friends with you at that point. They were friends with an old you, and you couldn't be you.
Thank you.
So you're lonely in these relationships because you're not actually being you. You're having to create the perception that you're someone that you're not.
Yep.
So that's going to be lonely. Plus you have no one to talk to,
very
and
well
connect
said.
with, right?
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So they're still there. They're still in my life, but the old friendship is no longer, and a new friendship needs to form. But I'm not in an emotional space where that can form. It's like breaking up with somebody and then seeing that person regularly. That person doesn't hold any sort of negative space in your life really, but you don't want to see him every day. And that's kind of how I felt. And so I was really lonely. Didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to. Of course, that's not true. I had people in my life I could talk with, but the loneliness felt very real. It was then that I decided to pierce my ears.
As a BYU student.
It was
now,
no
was
longer
this after the church. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It was no longer against the honor code. And it's funny because I pierced my ears not because I thought it would look really cool. And now I love them. I think they look awesome. But I pierced them because I thought, I know that a third of Mormons leave the church. There's got to be people who are at least questioning or
it's
wondering.
Actually 2/3 of Mormons leave the church.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Well, 5 million.
Oh, yeah.
Out of 17.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
That's
yeah.
But it's 40% of those raised in the church
right.
leave the church.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I knew that there were people who might be going through something similar. And I thought a subtle way to signal that would probably be to pierce my ears. No one else is doing that. And it actually worked like a charm. There were two ways to sort of find this underground.
Oh, it's like underground. It's like a dog whistle. It's like
yeah. So signaling. Like I pierced my ears, and then for my study breaks, I wouldn't go to the library. I would go to the coffee shop on Center Street. And I started to.
Which one? What's it called?
Peace on Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Starbucks right off campus?
I think there are a few like drive-through. I don't really go to the drive-through coffee places. I like to sit down with a book and hang out for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two methods were they worked. I was able to.
So BYU students go to coffee shops?
The ones that are not the really devout Mormons. They won't go there. That's why it was like BYU felt like kind of a hostile environment. Going back to that like breakup analogy, it's like being at your ex-girlfriend's house. Like you feel it's really unnerving. Like that feels weird. And so this like safe haven was the coffee shop. Like any coffee shop, I could go there and be like the super devout Mormons are not here. Mm-hmm. And these are just regular people. It was like a step out of the bubble.
Yeah.
And then the earrings too kind of set me apart. And very quickly I was able to make some friends with people who are nuanced or questioning or had left or didn't believe or whatever. And that was very beneficial for my mental health.
So you're at a coffee shop and you just strike up conversations or what?
I'm very social.
So you just say hi to people at coffee shops and are you a student and you made friendships that way?
Yeah. Coffee shops are very social in general. And I'm social in all aspects. I love to meet new people and just strike up conversation.
So if the Church of BYU has orthodoxy spies, they're going to start going to coffee shops.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are we ruining it?
We might be letting it out. Yeah.
Be careful what you say at a Provo coffee shop, BYU students.
Yeah.
Be careful who you tell what.
But it was cool. I was able to find people that I could have open conversation with, find people who I could sort of relate to in this way. My old friends loved me, but like I couldn't really talk about critical church issues. I couldn't talk about philosophy that fell outside of Mormon belief. I could, but it just wasn't the same. It was like constantly talking with people who vehemently oppose your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And it feels hostile.
So let me back up for a second. Did you date a lot at BYU? Did you date those first 3 years at BYU Provo? And then did dating change after, your senior year after you lost your faith? If so, how? If you're comfortable sharing.
Good question. And this will touch on an important topic. Dating all through. I had a girlfriend must have been my freshman year, maybe my sophomore year. For a while, we dated for like 10 months.
Post-mission.
This is the longest relationship I've had. And then I've had some shorter term relationships throughout. And all of it has been within the church. I just assumed, and this was said explicitly after I left the church by someone who loves me very much, said, how are you going to find like a good girl to date and marry now? That's wild. That's the perspective, that the good girls and guys are Mormon. And if you date outside the Mormon church, you're going to have a really hard time finding a good person.
That's why I asked you when you were a kid if you thought you were better than other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You are chosen of God. You are better than other people.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I had this idea that dating in the church was the way to go. And so I was really good at being the super devout Mormon, even though I think internally, maybe closeted, I was a little bit more nuanced than most. I projected an all-in persona. And I dated in the church, had fine relationships in the church, but I was really scared when I left that what dating was going to be like.
Wait, what kept you from getting married to some of those young women you dated as a projectingly Orthodox Mormon?
Yeah. The only girl I dated a girl for 10 months, so we could have gotten married. I mean, the other relationships were too short to really even consider that.
Not by many standards.
Fair enough. But no, it's just, typical relationship stuff. I think by that point, I started to think, oh, do I want to spend a lifetime with this person? And just thought really deeply about it and looked within myself and went, I don't think this is my person. And so, went separate ways there. So
faith issues never came into your dating.
So there was one. Yeah. Okay. There was, my last relationship before I left the church. It wasn't an official relationship. I was just talking to someone, and I mentioned some of these maybe nuanced beliefs, or just not even nuanced beliefs, just questions. I was like, I don't really know about this. And I think I at one point said out loud, my priority is to follow God in my life. And hypothetically, if God told me to leave Mormonism, I would totally do it. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. And she, very shortly after that conversation, said, I think we should end things. And I sort of pressed and said, why do you feel that way? And she mentioned she was questioning my testimony. She mentioned that she had gone to the temple and had a bad feeling about the relationship. And that kind of hit me. And I do think that was one of the sort of kickstarters or instigators, me going, do I want to date in a culture that's like that? That's so close-minded that me even having questions that fall outside of Mormonism is enough to end a relationship. Is this an environment I want to date in?
Yeah, Mormons often marry the church first and their partner second.
Right.
Believing Mormons.
Right.
Not always, but a lot of times.
Right.
It's like I don't want to say three-way, but it's like Jesus, them, and their partner. But
and the church will teach you that.
Yeah.
You should, your marriage, your relationship should be built on the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And I guess it's totally fine as long as
As long
everyone
as you're on the
stays
same
on
page
plan.
and nobody ever changes their mind.
Yeah. Which 40% or more will.
Yeah.
So you're kind of coin tossing the future of your marriage.
Yeah.
When you marry a Orthodox, devout, believing Mormon,
Yep.
with the understanding that you'll stay Mormon for the rest of your life, you're kind of coin tossing your marriage.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And maybe everyone is. So, I mean, maybe that's not unique, but it presents problems later.
Yeah.
For many. Okay. So dating. So once you lost your faith your senior year, did dating change for you? How did you date at that point, or did you stop? Or
I wasn't interested in dating at that point. I thought, well, I'm about to embark on a very difficult journey of piecing together my beliefs. My whole faith structure, belief system has fallen apart. I don't know what I stand for anymore. I got to figure all this stuff out. So it really wasn't a priority to me. But just naturally going about and being, social and active and stuff, like I still meet lots of people and met some incredible women and like girls and, no relationships, but just like I'm realizing that there are incredible people outside of Mormonism. This is where Mormon Stories podcast was really beneficial, where I was able to see.
Did you know about it before your senior year at BYU?
I knew about it. I didn't really listen to a lot of the podcasts. For me, it wasn't like, I didn't go to Mormon Stories podcast for research. I went to it after I had already decided to leave the church as a form of validation, because I was seeing people who had left the church who were happy. And I was always told that the plan of happiness, or like the happiest you'd ever be, was in the church. And so that sort of broke that preconceived belief that I had.
What were just because I want to know how to help people, what were the types of interviews that you can recall on Mormon Stories that were helpful to you as a BYU student that you remember, if you remember any?
These ones, the interviews with people who have left the church and hearing their story, because I think everyone who leaves the church can relate to someone else's story to some degree. And it was the common theme of, I actually feel better, and like I feel like this was a good thing for me. I feel like a better person after leaving the church. I was terrified that I was going to become a worse version of myself. And you're at BYU. Every like guest speaker that comes into a class is like a church leader or a member of the church who made it really big in business, and they also have an awesome family life. And so you're being fed this narrative that to be successful, you got to be Mormon. And if you fall outside of that religion, you can be like a little happy, but it's not lasting, enduring happiness. And your success is going to be built on a house of cards, and it's not real. And so Mormon Stories podcast helped me break out of that narrative and realize that there are very successful people, very happy people who have grown into themselves since they left Mormonism. You can write your own story. You don't have to follow the prescription that's been given to you as a child.
You may not even remember, but is there a story or two you can recommend others as ones that were particularly, and it's okay if it's all runs together or you don't remember.
I watched some recently. I loved, and I'm trying to remember his name. He served his mission in Russia.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah. Don't put me on the spot.
Oh, sorry. Served his mission in Russia, had a really crazy experience there. This was a recent one. Man, that guy is so smart. And I'm being put on the spot too. I can't remember his name, but that one was really impactful. I'm just bad with names.
Kyson.
That's right.
Kyson Dana. On the spot, I can't remember names.
Yeah, but same. Now I remember Kyson Dana. Yeah. There was another one that was a girl. I can't remember her name either. Who was close to my age, so that was impactful because I was able to resonate with her story. Yeah, those are some good ones.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad Mormon Stories was helpful to you.
Yeah.
I often wonder, as someone who went to BYU, met my wife at BYU,
Yeah.
got married after BYU, I'm always thinking about the BYU students.
Right.
So I'm glad it was helpful to help you process. There's a, is there like a secret sort of like formal, like, okay, let me tell you this. So like back in 2012, 2013, there was like Kate Kelly from Ordained Women used to run like this meeting where they'd meet once a week at someone's house at night, and a bunch of unorthodox / non-believing BYU students would invite speakers to come speak. It was kind of formal.
Interesting.
This was the year that, like, I think Dick Cheney, the vice president of the United States, could have been Donald Rumsfeld. I don't remember. Some controversial conservative Republican was going to like give the graduation speech at BYU, and a bunch of liberal BYU students who were Democrat were outraged. And I think they invited Ralph Nader to come to BYU to give like an alternative. I think it was called alternative commencement.
Yeah.
Where they had two graduation ceremonies, like one for the normal kids and one for the liberal progressive kids.
Wow.
This was a long time ago. I remember I interviewed Ashley Sanders, and she was Neil A. Maxwell's granddaughter. Like there was a huge liberal Democrat, even ex-Mormon or non-believing Mormon contingency at BYU that you could find and get to know and socialize with.
Yeah.
Were there things like that underground? Or when I was at BYU, there was an underground newspaper called the Student Review that was published off campus. And before that, it was called the Seventh East Press, where you would get the Daily Universe. You'd go to the stall and get the Daily Universe newspaper, but you would also go to the stall right next to it and get the Student Review newspaper, which was like an alternative,
wow,
liberal, critical newspaper. And you could read both. Was there anything like that, even online, like Instagram or Reddit or whatever? Were there ways that non-believing BYU students could find each other, get to know each other, even get together and have fun or date or party or whatever?
Not really.
No?
Well, I
With
wasn't
30,000 students, you'd think that
know.
would exist.
Yeah, you'd think it would. And I bet if I was more involved in politics, I would have run into this. But I wasn't very political.
Oh yeah.
And so I didn't I wasn't exposed politically. For me, it was I had to get the earrings pierced and I had to go to coffee shops. That's how I found the people. But there can't be a club. Imagine like the non-believing Mormons club at BYU. There's no way. So it has to be underground. BYU forces it to be. No one wants a target on their back.
Yeah.
So as a non-believing member at BYU, if you're not super social like I am, I can only imagine how lonely you feel.
Yeah. That's why you wanted to do this interview, right? Partly.
Yes. Yeah.
How, and this is not to get political, I'm just curious, objectively, analytically, how Trumpy or MAGA was the BYU student body?
I mean, conservative.
Or versus neutral?
Conservative for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was more focused on the social issues surrounding LGBTQ. I definitely noticed like people were pretty judgmental towards LGBTQ.
So the general vibe at
BYU
Provo
conservative
is kind of anti-LGBT.
Yeah. But honestly, I think a lot of the maybe I just really was super politically ignorant. But I didn't notice like a crazy conservative or a crazy liberal dichotomy.
It wasn't heavily politicized. BYU Provo wasn't heavily politicized.
Not that
in
I
your
noticed.
Experience.
In my experience,
Cool.
no. And I think it was just because I kind of chose to not care about that kind of stuff, and whether, for right or for wrong. I think now I recognize that I actually don't like that. I want to not be politically ignorant. But at the time it was like, well, there are bigger things than politics. Like God is bigger than politics. So why don't I just seek God in my life and life purpose, and the other stuff can fall by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, finding your eternal companion, dating,
Sure.
doing well in your classes and figuring out your career and maybe having babies, that keeps you pretty busy, right?
Yeah,
And serving in your callings in church.
totally. Keeps you distracted.
So how would you say your final year was? Happy, sad, exciting, miserable,
Yeah.
depressing?
So it was, I left the church and then I had like a full semester of me being like, what's going on?
Wait, did you like literally stop going to church?
I did. Yeah, actually.
How? Without like losing your ecclesiastical endorsement?
I would go like every once in a while, but
Mhm.
then I went a period of like a couple months where I just didn't go at all. I had an incredible bishop who I told him what I was going through, which again, now people would go, what were you thinking? But I told my bishop, I said, I've gone on this soul searching journey. Here's what I've discovered. I don't believe in the church anymore. And to be honest, when I go to church, it's a very triggering environment. And so like, I'll check in with you regularly, but I don't really want to go to sacrament meeting.
Whoa, you told your Mormon bishop this as a BYU student.
Yeah. And
Wow.
when I mentioned this to other BYU students who were questioning or non-believing, they were just mind blown. Why would you say that to your bishop? Like, that's insane. But I had a really good relationship with my bishop. Keep in mind, I've been confessing and regularly meeting with all of my bishops for all of my upbringing. So like, I had a really tight relationship with him before I decided to leave the church.
Yeah.
So even when I was in my questioning phase, I was telling him about the questioning thing. And then when I decided I didn't believe in it anymore, I told him, I think I've decided I don't believe in it and I need to take a break. And he was very supportive.
Nice.
So he was an incredible bishop.
That's great. You hit the bad lottery with the stake president, and as a teen, you hit the good lottery at BYU.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that like God's dictation goes through? You just don't know. Like you're receiving different information based on who the God authority is, but that God authority is supposed to be speaking for God, and God's going to give you conflicting answers. And besides the point, but I left the church. Well, I decided I was done. I opened up to my family very quickly. My family is incredibly supportive and loving, and I thought it'd be safe to share what I had discovered with them.
So was your mom bummed? She's still the Orthodox believer, right?
Yep.
You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to with them.
Thank you. It's all good. So coming out to my family, it's funny. That is what it feels like. It really feels like you're coming out. But it's in terms of belief instead of sexual orientation. But
I've had many gay people tell me it was harder to come out as a non-believing Mormon than as coming out as gay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I felt good about my decision. I felt altruistic in my desires. I didn't feel like this was tainted by any like selfish desire. I was excited to explore this life that was true and authentic to who I wanted to be, who I was in the moment. I didn't really grapple with any cognitive dissonance until I started opening up to people that cared about me, friends and family. And then I was smacked with this wave of intense guilt and shame. Not because of anything that anyone said, but because of the silent judgments that I could hear. Whether or not I'm reading other people's minds, which is impossible to do. And so, but I know what it's like because I was in the church. And when people would leave the church, I know the silent judgments that I would hold. And I know the secret conversations that I would have with people. And so I internalized that. Even though I wasn't hearing it with my ears, I could kind of internalize the judgment I was feeling from these people that I loved so much. And I just felt really bad. A lot of guilt and shame. I felt that really heavy for that semester at BYU. In my journal entries, I kept saying like, I really need to get out. And I ended up taking, like, I took a weekend trip to Colorado because I just needed to get out of Utah. And and the coffee shop was a way to kind of get out of feeling judged all the time. I ended up buying a plane ticket to Southeast Asia. I spent 2 months solo traveling, went to 3 different countries. So super like in the bubble, feeling really uncomfortable at BYU. And then the summer hit and I was able to fully expand. I could be whoever I wanted. I could tell whatever story I wanted. It was incredible. And I learned so much about myself on that 2-month trip. And then internship in Arizona, similar thing. I was away from Utah. I felt like over this last summer, I grew so much into myself and I learned who I was, and this like idea of God, it was also like a godly search, and God changed form for me. I mean, like I'd seen God as this like father-like entity in my life. And then all of a sudden I had these experiences where I realized that like I'm deeply connected with myself. And I think in forming my relationship with God, I've really been coming to know myself on a deeper level, and just all of these really beautiful philosophical soul-searching breakthroughs. Summer was incredible. Came back from the summer, went back to BYU in the fall, and in like 2 to 3 weeks, I felt like I had gone right back to that mental space that I was in before I had left BYU.
How'd that feel?
Terrible. It was like a relapse. I felt like I'd broken free and I could fully be myself. And I came back and just felt shackled again.
So like a psychological prison?
Yeah.
And at that point you had just fall one semester left?
Yep. Yeah, decided to stick it through. 1 semester left.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
What were the hardest parts?
Maybe even harder than the first semester.
What were the hardest parts?
BYU was a triggering environment, the campus. My attendance in my classes went down. People noticed it. And I got good enough grades to graduate, whatever, but it was really hard for me to go to class. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I started noticing the little things that make people Mormon, the little unwritten things that people do, the way people dress, the tight pants, the BYU shirts, just these little things. Like I felt like
what's a BYU shirt? Like literally a shirt that says BYU?
Yeah, like literally a shirt that says BYU.
Okay.
I don't know. You see little things. I feel like I got to the point where I could spot a member of the church really quickly.
Wait, tight pants?
Tight pants is like a BYU thing. It's really funny.
A believing BYU student would wear tight pants?
Yeah, like the skinny jeans, for some reason, that's like a dead giveaway.
Like, what? That's
if you wear skinny jeans, you're a devout Mormon.
Wow.
At BYU.
That's weird. I thought it'd be the other way. A devout Mormon would wear baggy pants.
No, yeah, they wear skinny pants.
Huh, okay. That's the guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like little things and mannerisms, right? Like I got to this point where I started to see myself as different, and I felt like I didn't fit in and I didn't belong. But I had to go to get good grades. I found the easiest religion class that was online, so that I didn't have to go in person. It was Living Prophets, and I'm being tested on questions like, where did Elder Bednar serve his mission? I'm going, really? This is
as a university student.
This is my education, really?
That was called Teachings of the Living Prophets when I was a BYU student.
It might have been something like that.
And you didn't like that class?
No. It just felt so arduous. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a very enjoyable last semester. I found enjoyment in other things for sure. I had a hard time enjoying or feeling comfortable on BYU campus though.
Did you consider the counseling center at BYU?
I did.
To see a therapist?
I did the CAPS program, like a 6-week free therapy program at BYU. And it was helpful.
Did you feel safe to tell a BYU therapist?
I mean, I'm protected by the law. So yeah, I felt pretty comfortable sharing my experiences and beliefs. And it was okay. It was a mediocre experience. It's actually my only experience with therapy ever, even though my dad's a therapist.
For many, many years, the therapists at BYU CAPS were huge Mormon Stories fans. And they would come to all my events and just secretly tell me,
that's funny,
we're on the front lines and
that makes a lot of sense. I mean,
but I don't know if it's still true. That was true for the first 15 years of Mormon Stories. I haven't heard from them.
That's got to be the only avenue through which you can openly communicate your beliefs if they differ from Mormonism. I can't think of any other safe space that BYU provides than the CAPS program. And BYU doesn't provide it. The law provides it.
Yeah.
BYU doesn't create a safe environment for people who are non-believing. And if you're non-believing, they're going to try to convince you to believe.
Yeah.
There was one class that I took my last semester that the professor seemed very just like open to anyone and everyone. And that was a rare feeling. I was initially planning on not even taking this class. It fell outside of my schedule. I didn't really want to do it. But the material, the first reading that we had was this really beautiful poetic reading called The Prophet, not about Mormonism. And this professor just really called to me. He seemed like really engaged in an authentic way. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm really glad I took that class. One of our assignments was to create a life design framework. And there was a section about beliefs. And it wasn't in regards to religion, although a lot of people did implement their religious beliefs into that section of the assignment. But it was like, what do you believe in? Like, what core values do you hold? And everyone had 5 minutes to present their life design framework and then a 2-minute Q&A. And I took this opportunity to share what I believed. I didn't share what I disbelieved about the church, but I shared some deep philosophical principles that would fall outside of Mormonism. I talked about existentialism. I talked about absurdism. I talked about determinism, which is the disbelief in free will. And I actually shared why I believe in, I at the time was intrigued by determinism. And it sparked, controversy and questions in the class, but it was a very rare circumstance where I felt safe to openly share what I believed without fear of consequence. There was a little bit of fear of consequence, but not a ton. Some people came up to me, the TA of the class came up to me at the end of the semester and said, "Hey, I just wanted to say, I'm really grateful to you for being open about what you believe. I feel like this isn't a place where most people are."
Yeah, you went down the nihilism rabbit hole at BYU.
I did.
If you got into absurdism,
I did.
Yeah, free will, that's pretty deep stuff.
Yeah, and I love Alex O'Connor. He was I had listened to a lot of his content on YouTube and really fell into the philosophy. I was so religious. I read my scriptures and prayed every single day. And then when I left Mormonism, it felt like there was this gaping hole. And I truly think philosophy filled that hole for me. I started to read philosophy in lieu of scriptures and started to journal in lieu of praying. And it was really beneficial for me.
Wow. Yeah, there's got to be BYU professors that don't believe. I hear it every semester, but either they are afraid to lose their job or they don't think they can get another job, or they stay in part because they want to be a positive influence or support for all types of BYU students.
Yeah. That'd be a tough spot to be in as a BYU professor. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. All right. So did you ever get really depressed that final semester or not too bad? You did?
Yeah. It was mostly in regards to philosophy. I fell into nihilism pretty heavy. There was a period of about 2 weeks where I just felt like there's no purpose to my existence. That was hard.
How'd you pull out of that?
I didn't. Well, I did. I mean, it's tough. You have this belief structure that gives you this overarching purpose to your life. You take that away and then you ask yourself, well, is there a purpose to life? And I think if you follow the thread, really follow the thread, eventually everyone comes to this place of this nihilistic headspace of no, there's no purpose to life. And then how do you reconcile that? A couple responses. I immediately fell into an existentialist philosophical lens, which is life is meaningless, but meaning can be derived from any situation based on how you want to create meaning in your life. And
that can be framed as a feature, not a bug.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
And then but then I unfortunately I thought about it a little too hard, which I tend to do. And I went from this existentialist philosophy of, well, I can give life meaning to, but I'm only giving life meaning to escape the discomfort of its inherent meaninglessness. And then I went, crap.
Now you know why religion exists.
Yeah, literally. Anyway, so then I was like, no, I'm just nihilist. There's no purpose. And I fell into that headspace for a solid 2 weeks. and was the most sad and depressed I've ever felt. And I realized I can't do this. There were two things that pulled me out of that really nihilistic headspace. The first one was curiosity. I feel like even if life is inherently meaningless, there's a pull, and it's curiosity. Like, it's the what ifs in your life. Like, what gets me out of bed in the morning is what if I get out of bed in the morning? What if I pursue a career? What if I pursue romance? What if I pursue this or that? Life is a big question mark, and so that curiosity can propel you forward, which can make you happy. So curiosity is one. And then absurdism is just the decision to laugh at the meaninglessness of life. It's one must imagine Sisyphus happy, is a popular quote in absurdism, and it's true. Like, if life really is just meaningless.
Sisyphus is the guy pushing the rock up the hill to have it just come back down again, right?
Exactly. He's condemned to, his version of hell is that he's pushing a boulder up a hill for eternity, and he'll never reach the top of the hill. So there's no point, right? There's no summit. And that is nihilism. We're pushing this rock called life for no reason. And so absurdism says one must imagine Sisyphus happy. How do you imagine someone who's condemned to push a rock up a hill forever as happy? It's a tricky one. And absurdism will say, well, you laugh at it. You laugh at the stupidity of this situation that we're in, the absurdity, right, of this human condition. So that's been, it sounds, well, whatever. It's that's actually helped me, oddly enough, falling into this absurdist mindset. This is just dumb that I exist. But what the hell? Like, let's do it anyway.
A couple things. I take it a little bit further. I think it's a miracle that we exist. Like, I think it's unbelievably, miraculously profound.
Yeah.
Almost, I don't want to say spiritual, but like, we should just all be dust. That should be it. The fact that we are sentient beings
is mind-blowing
on this beautiful and terrible planet.
Sure.
Like, the elements don't get this. Most elements don't get this experience, but we do.
Yep.
So for me, life has revived with incredible meaning and wonder and beauty and power.
Yeah.
And I'm incredibly grateful to be alive and wanting to suck the marrow from the bone of life, because it's a miracle, even if there's no God or no meaning, which also I don't know. It's a
privilege, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I agree. And I've actually arrived pretty recently at a headspace similar, where I'm grateful for what life gives me. You can look at life as constantly taking away, or you can look at life as constantly giving.
Yeah.
And I think the giving one doesn't just feel better. I think it's more accurate.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And of course, there's so much glibness and privilege that we're dripping in, because, we're not an Iranian school girl that just got bombed.
Right.
We're straight, we're white, we're in America, and maybe our day is coming. You know what I mean? But I do acknowledge the privilege we have, but sometimes people in developing countries have higher average happiness rates than people in America. So, I mean, it's not, privilege isn't the only traditional classic social privilege as defined in leftist America isn't necessarily the framing of joy and meaning and fulfillment in life. Right. You know what I mean? Yep. So anyway, it's interesting, because this ties back to early in our interview where we were talking about the value of myth, the value of scripture, and whether it's true or not being important. You ultimately crashed into that wall of like, what if it's not real? Then what? And it's a really hard reality to crash into, isn't it?
Yeah, people, I think the church will paint truth as this like fluffy stuffed animal. Like, truth is good. Like, you have a loving Father in heaven, and You can live with your families for eternity, right? And like, I don't think a pursuit of truth shouldn't be what's the fluffiest. A pursuit of truth should be what's real. And sometimes that hurts and it's painful. I've heard it described before. Leaving Mormonism is like sitting by a warm fire in a cabin in a comfy chair. And you walk out the door and it's a blizzard and it's cold. So you turn back to go into the cabin and the cabin never existed.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Except it did exist because it was your whole childhood and adolescence and young adulthood.
Yeah, but
it did exist.
But it feels like it never, like it was a figment of your imagination because it's not real.
Yeah. My metaphor is like you grow up with these loving parents that raise you well and treat you well. And then when you become an adult, you find out they weren't really your parents.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? That they lied to you. That,
Yeah.
They stole you when you were a baby, or you were assigned to them and adopted, but they never told you.
Yeah. It hurts to be deceived for years.
Yeah. And some would say we had an amazing upbringing.
True. And
both.
I think there's space for both of those.
Yeah.
You can look at the good and you can recognize the bad.
Both could be true.
Yes. Both can be true.
It can be both and. Yeah. Well, the one thing that I'm always mindful of, I probably mentioned this too much, but like I still haven't tried alcohol. I'm 56, and it's not a big deal. I don't think it really means that much.
It's bad for you. It's expensive.
What's that?
It's bad for you. It's expensive.
Well, for me, I was going to say something a little bit different. It's just like a symbolic, for me personally, it's like a symbolic decision to say, keep the good.
I love it.
You know what I mean? And I'm not projecting that. I'm not virtue signaling to anyone else.
Right.
For me, it's just like one way. It worked for me. I think there's risk in it. I don't need the calories. I don't need the expense. I don't need the risk. But it's like a tangible column that I can say, hey, keep the good.
Right.
Like, it can get sketchy out there. Guidelines are good. Guardrails are good. I was thinking about coming to interview you this morning, and I'm like, some ex-Mormons I interview, their life goes off the rails. And the metaphor of a train is quite apt.
Right.
A train ain't going nowhere with tracks.
Yeah.
A kite ain't staying up in the air without a string.
Right.
I think we do well with frameworks or limits or controls.
I agree.
And I was thinking, what's mine now? And it's kind of my wife, like Margie.
I love it.
Her job isn't to police me, but I think we kind of provide each other structure.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I want for you and for everyone and for me is that we don't go off the rails. Do you think about that in your life going forward?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. I agree. Honestly, I think the church, it was the rails, it was the string on the kite in a lot of really meaningful ways. And I think that it doesn't need to be the only thing that grounds you. It's true. You need something, right?
Self-imposed grounding doesn't always work.
No. And I think this is where the church is.
A punitive God that's there to punish you sometimes does work.
It sometimes does. And I genuinely believe that the church is, like, for some people, it's probably better to stay in the church.
Right.
And for some people, it's better to leave. Like there's objective truth and there's subjective truth. And I'm so okay with people's own subjective truth. I got no issue with that. I find issue when you take your subjective truth and tell me it's objective and I need to abide by it. That's where I take issue. But yeah, it's good to have those guidelines. I want to live a good life. And to me, that does look like some discipline. It looks like some direction. And when you go off the rails, people are miserable. That's aside from religion. That's just a proven point in psychology.
It's actually even more complex than, like, some people do best staying and some people do best leaving. Some people do horribly staying, but stay anyway. And some people leave and their life becomes a disaster. Like, it's all four.
Right.
And there's all sorts of shades in the middle. Yeah. It's just, life has suffering. Life is complex.
Totally.
And it's complex in or out. Yep. You really don't escape the complexity in or out. You just get a different type of complexity.
It's true. Yeah, everyone has such a unique life experience. We're all individuals.
Yeah.
We're going to have unique lessons. Yeah.
Let me ask you one question that I think some will care about. What have you decided to do with your church membership? Have you decided to stay on the rolls, to resign? And how have you come to that decision?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I told myself I'd do two things when I graduated from BYU. One of them was to apply to Mormon Stories podcast. And the other one was to formally remove my records from the church. I never thought I would take that step. I thought even if I hypothetically did leave the church, why would I go through that? But really my decision just hinged on the numbers reporting of the church. There are 17.5-ish million members of the church. And the church will report that every year at their church audit report. But they don't mention that activity levels are closer to like 5 million.
Yeah.
To me, it's a misleading number.
Mm-hmm.
I spent time on my mission talking about the growth of the church to try and, illustrate how God's work is progressing. This is clearly the work of God because look how much we've expanded.
Yeah.
But attrition numbers are not mentioned at all. So I think that that's dishonest on the church's behalf. It very easily could be a number reported. It's widely known. We know the church membership, 17.5 million, and we know the wards in operation. Divide the two.
And they track attendance weekly.
And they track
and
attendance
report
weekly.
It, so they know.
If the 17.5 million were accurate, we'd see something like 500 to 600 members per ward. But we know the activity levels are closer to like 150.
Yeah.
So the church knows this. There's no way they can't, but they don't report on it. They'll just report the 17.5 million number. To me, that's dishonest.
It's worse because they used to report on it and then they stopped.
Oh.
Once the numbers got bad.
That's interesting.
Every general conference, they used to report the membership numbers. And then a few years ago, they stopped reporting the membership numbers.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you are reporting 17.5 million, it's misleading.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying to the members, they don't even report that.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's dishonest, and I don't want my number to go. I don't want my number falsely reported in a misleading manner.
Yeah.
And so that's purely my intention in removing my record. I don't want to be associated with the 17.5 million to try to like push a narrative that Mormonism is, growing rapidly or whatever. I don't think it's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, lots of people make that decision. I didn't get to make that decision. They just kicked me out. So. But some people keep their names on the record. Some don't. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So how are you feeling about your future now that kind of the Mormon dream has become just a vision of the past,
Right.
How are you feeling about your future?
There's a level of uncertainty that's unprecedented up until this point in my life. My life can go any direction. It's exciting and invigorating, and it's also terrifying. If I'm being like fully honest and transparent, I don't really know where my life's going to go. I'm really curious to see how it unfolds. I'm piecing together aspects of my life that I still want, or other aspects that I want to add. One that for this last year, I've been like, well, do I even want the whole marriage and family thing? And I've discovered pretty recently that that's still something I want. I think like Margie grounds you, I believe that a significant other in a family would ground me to love and caring and nurturing. That's like a very healthy human thing to have in your life. And ultimately, I value love kind of above everything else. And so to maximize the love in my life, I think means to raise a family. So that's something I still want. And there is kind of a path to get there. It's almost like I've still fallen back into the same desires. I still want a family. I still want to raise kids. And in order to do that, I think a steady career is probably the best way to go. Also, life experience is important. I want to travel. I want to make friends. I don't want to live my life based on fear or guilt or shame. So there are lots of tenets, and I'm sort of piecing it together. But the cool thing is I've been given a blank canvas, and now I'm painting the picture that I want to paint. and I'm not just coloring within the lines anymore. And in my opinion, it creates a more beautiful painting.
You can make a mess, or you can make a masterpiece, but it'll be yours.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Or you can make just a great painting. Doesn't have to be a masterpiece or a mess. It could just be your great painting.
And life is subjective. Some people are going to look at my painting and they're going to say that's ugly. And other people are going to look at it and say it's beautiful. And that doesn't matter to me. I think that every painting is beautiful, truly. And every life lived is beautiful.
That's true. Amen. Well, this has been beautiful. Any final words of wisdom or perspective you want to share for, let's say, for a BYU student that's watching this and just trying to figure out how to survive?
Find the coffee shops. Peace on earth, I expect a commission check.
Wait, say that last part again.
Peace on earth, I expect a commission check.
Wait, what does that mean?
Peace on earth is the coffee shop.
Okay, that's yeah. We should create merch. So here's a business opportunity.
Okay,
be my merch guy. Create a T-shirt that's like find a coffee shop.
I like it.
It'll be like this little underground.
Yeah.
Would a BYU student get in trouble for wearing a T-shirt that said find a coffee shop?
I don't know.
It could be like this little signaling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have your face on the back, maybe.
That's right. Find a coffee shop.
Okay. Any other words of wisdom or advice, or did we get it?
Man, the pressure's on. I don't know about any final words of advice.
Any siblings? Do you want to talk about whether any of your 5 siblings are still in or out, or?
Yeah. So actually, half of my family's in, half of my family's out now.
The 40-50% is holding true.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
this is a super devout Mormon family.
And we were so devout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. You know, everyone paves their own path.
Are some of the ones still in kind of nuanced progressive liberal, or are they pretty hardline Orthodox?
They're pretty hardline.
Okay.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
I think, but they're hardline, but they're not ignorant, which I really admire about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of them have read the CES letter. They understand the issues, and they've chosen.
What are family reunions like when you all get together?
You know, it's a total shift in dynamic when someone leaves, especially when half the family leaves. We all still, when we're together as a family, we follow the Mormon rules. We don't swear, we don't drink, we don't do any of that.
Say family prayers before dinner.
Yep, we will still do that. Yeah. And so
nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And we all love each other. It's a new dynamic. It's like we were talking about. It's an old friendship that dies, but like a phoenix from the ashes, a new one forms. And I think the new friendship or relationship that forms is often just as good, or maybe even sometimes better, because there's real authenticity in it. I don't have any final words, but just everyone's path is beautiful. Everyone's path is their own. And that's all I have to say.
So if there's an ex-Mormon young man or young woman that's, wanting to be your friend or more, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm not on social media.
Or never Mormon.
This sounds so lame. This makes me sound like such a grandpa, but probably email, because I don't have social media.
Do you want to share your email address?
Yeah, sure. It's ryanmichaelhuey@gmail.com.
Ryan Michael Huey.
Huey.
Ryan Michael Huey.
And honestly, I would love that. My intent was twofold in auditioning for this interview. One was I wanted to not live my life in fear or hidden. I wanted to just be open about and authentic about who I am. So that's for me. That's my selfish desire. Is that this is my coming out. The other desire was provide myself as a resource, a voice of support to people who are going through a similar process. It can be incredibly difficult. I know for me, it was literally the most difficult thing I've ever done. And so, yeah, reach out to me. I would love to answer emails and give you my phone number, whatever. But grab coffee. Ryan Michael Huey.
Or hot chocolate.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I had some BYU students reach out to me and say, we're Closet Mormon Stories listeners. There's a group of 12 of us who get together regularly. Can we come to the studio? So they came here to the studio, and I ordered lunch. We ate lunch right around that table over there.
That's so fun.
We all took a selfie with like, Mormon choral horror and 12 BYU students. It was super fun. So
That's
yeah,
really
BYU students, UVU students. If you ever want to do a Mormon Stories field trip, I'm in Salt Lake.
I love that.
And I'll keep your secrets. I won't.
Well, I'll be waiting for the emails. I'll put together a group and then we can all go get dinner or something.
Fun.
Yeah, that'd be good. Go to a coffee shop.
All right. You gonna do my merch?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. All right. And your dad, shout out to Brother Huey.
Yep. And sister
and your
Huey.
mom.
And sister Huey. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both incredible.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan Huey, thanks for coming on Mormon Stories. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And my heart, Margie's heart is definitely with BYU students. So thanks for being willing to come out, air quotes, so quickly in service of those who might benefit from your story.
Thank you so much, John.
All right. And just to close, we're like 300 subscribers away from 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's break 300,000. That helps us get better guests. Honestly, I got Bart Ehrman on last week, and his agent looks at how many subscribers we have, and that makes him want to come on to sell his books. So please subscribe, please like, please comment. We value all that. If you're a donor, thank you. We couldn't do this without you. Our ad revenue is in decline. We don't really do ads. We don't do sponsorships. The way we exist, for the most part, is through donations. So if you value this content and you want to see it continue, please go to mormonstories.org/donate, become a monthly donor. And that's how we'll be able to continue. The Mormon Church is threatening to sue us. It could be a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. We're in the final stages of mediation. It looks like I can't imagine it ending successfully. I could be surprised, but we may be facing a multi-million-dollar possible lawsuit from the church. So we need your support. So please support us if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. Don't stress. Don't feel bad. Enjoy the podcast. We give it away for free. But if you can't support us, we really appreciate it. There are other ways to support us besides financially. Again, subscribing, liking, giving us a positive rating on iTunes, on Spotify, on Facebook, wherever, sharing, spreading the word. And we're always looking for people to apply. Just like Ryan, what he did is he went to mormonstories.org/apply. He filled out the application, recorded a 3-minute application video. Margie and I reviewed it. We felt like it would be a really interesting and novel episode. And so we invited him on. That's how you get on Mormon Stories. Now, we get about 1,000 interviews a year. And the ones that make it usually are good storytellers with a good story who we get a real clear sense know what our audience would find interesting. If you're just trying to sell a book and you're not really a listener to Mormon Stories, or you just, have a story that's been told a lot, that isn't much different, there's less of a chance you're going to be accepted. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that if you're just a normal everyday Mormon that we won't want you. We often get people telling us the interviews we value most are regular everyday Mormons. So what it's not that we need, internet celebrities or published authors or, clickbait scandal stuff. An everyday Mormon story can be some of the most compelling, like the father-daughter combo that we interviewed just a few weeks ago. It's just, is it a heartfelt, uplifting, inspiring, touching, moving story with good storytellers? So don't rule yourself out if you're a good storyteller or an authentic storyteller. And I don't even mean charismatic. I just mean heartfelt, sincere, honest. Those are the types of things we're looking for. So please apply, mormonstories.org/apply. We would love to consider you for Mormon Stories. And if we don't accept you, that doesn't mean your story isn't worthy or good or valuable. It just means we have too many to choose from. Someday there'll be someone else start a Mormon Stories, and I can just pass all the people who we don't accept on to someone else to have them tell their story, because everyone's story deserves to be told. Margie and I just can't do it all, especially while we're being sued by the church, or allegedly sued or possibly sued. So anyway, That's it. Thanks for your support. Thanks for joining us today. Huge thanks to Brooklyn and Julia. They do all our post-production and pre-production. They do a great job. Margie as a co-host is great. And all the people running LDS discussions, Julia and Colby and Nemo, we're grateful to them as well. So that's it. Thanks for joining us today. Please reach out. I hope more BYU students in the future will reach out to us as well. Love to have field trips here on Mormon Story Studios. And that's it. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you all again soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. Take care, everybody.